Alrighty, everyone. Well, welcome to this week's Talk or Ask Us Anything. I always say that it's generally been a pretty busy news week, but my God, a lot has happened in the last 7 days. A lot. I think a good place to start is probably sometime a couple of years ago when someone wrote a tweet to, I don't know, some bloke that runs a car company and said, can we please have a store, supercharger and service centre in Perth, Western Australia? Population is over 2 million and there are hundreds of Teslas serviced by one technician working out of a secret location. This is not good enough. And this minor executive of some car company said, okay. And that, apart from getting 1,932 likes, was a pretty stirring statement. And as we all know, earlier this year, we got a proper service centre and a retail outlet. And then last Thursday, we got one of these, which is the, as everyone knows, what Tesla calls the Perth North Supercharger, and is actually the Karrinyup Supercharger. So obviously we felt compelled to tweet out actually congratulating Tesla and saying it's been a little over 2 years since Jason of Tesla WA, that's in Tokwa, asked Elon Musk, and he said what? He said, okay. And we are thrilled, as we all are, to announce Tesla have fulfilled Jason's 3 wishes. So there you go. That was just the start of the big news item. I don't know if you noticed last Wednesday, we were sort of discussing what we thought, what we were stating was the stated opening day of the supercharger. Of course, we actually knew, but we were embargoed, so we had to be a bit tight-lipped. And this photo was actually taken the day before at the supercharger, so we knew it was running, but we couldn't say it. But there you go, Perth's first supercharger ever. Now, if that wasn't news enough, let me see. Oh, there's actually, we might just go through a little bit of unfortunate news because it's always good to be fair and balanced. And that was something that made the news earlier, well, late last week. And that was this, which is Geelong's 300 megawatt and 450 megawatt hour power reserve that was actually just being in the process of being commissioned. And unfortunately, one of the cabinets, well, some part of it caught fire, and then the fire sort of spread a little bit to an adjoining cabinet. Just for interest's sake, these things are the size of sea containers. They are 40-foot sea containers, and they weigh 13 tonnes each. And there are 212 megapacks in total in this at this location. And I think they're worth about $1 million each, US. But look, I think it's a testament to the fact that they're so well designed that really, in spite of one going up in a blaze of glory, it really just had a bit of minor damage to this adjacent one, and a little bit of scorching on the opposite one. So the good news is I don't think they expect final commissioning to be drastically delayed. And of course, this power reserve is designed to come on stream this summer, which is going to be critical for the Eastern States grid reliability. So no doubt the knockers will have their say, but I dare say if this was a petrol refinery, the blaze wouldn't have been confined to one sea container. So there you go. Now we've also got, there's a software update. Now I'm not sure, I know this isn't working in my car, and I don't know if anyone in Model 3s have this working. And if not, it'll be something that'll be forthcoming shortly. And that is a software version that enables a car wash mode. It's not really, has anyone got that yet?
No, it's not out yet.
Okay, so the car wash mode, I mean, we don't have many of these car washes here anymore, but it's basically intended that you can effectively put the car in neutral and have it parked so that you can go into one of those drag along car washes where the actual car wash itself pulls you along. I think that's mainly intended for those cases. I've seen this in Europe where you actually don't stay in the car, you have to get out and then the car wash does its thing. But that's sort of, you know, a minor feature. And there was a dash cam improvement whereby if your car was in a crash, it would automatically, or any sort of dangerous event, it would automatically record to the memory stick. And for Model 3s, you could change the display for your amount of charge left to either be percentage or kilometres simply by tapping the range icon or the battery icon.
You've got that now, Harold.
You've got that now?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Okay. And as for the car wash, I think I'm booming in here in this room. I found today that you can actually turn your windscreen wipers off. It was annoying me that the automatic didn't seem to be water there, but there was going. So I thought there must be a way to turn it off. And there is, easy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, it is a setting. You can set it for intermittent, low, high, and auto, or off.
Or off.
So that's pretty cool. Now, I think the next thing to go to, there's a little minor Cybertruck bit of news, which is always good because yours truly is very keenly watching Cybertruck. And that's that they actually passed 1.2 million reservations a couple of days ago. So I don't know what that means for us in Australia. I think traditionally Tesla have just kept on building right-hand drive cars anyway. It's not like they're going to make, 1.15 million Cybertrucks first, left-hand drive ones, and then do the right hands. But, it's just an interesting statistic. Albeit, I think it was only $100 down. So it's not a huge commitment, but still, there's a lazy $100 or $120 million in Tesla's coffers. Yes, this one I need to have a little prop for. There was a tweet out that's got us all in a bit of a flap. Like myself.
Is this to do with Nigel's background?
I can't see Nigel's. Nigel is always, Pete, while you may have the words ahead of the curve above your head, from where I'm sitting, it's actually below Nigel. So he's even further ahead of the curve.
He's off the reservation completely.
He absolutely is in many ways.
Sorry, it's just Model Y is in the news, so I put a picture up.
Absolutely. So how this came about was a little tweet, which we actually retweeted because we can. And I'm just going to try and maximize this. And that was basically that Vita Prime has announced that there are actually 3 Model Ys that have landed in Australia. And they are clearly the SR Plus, the long range, and the performance. And as he sort of says, it could be used for certification, crash testing, or education. What you can actually do, and it's free for anyone to do, is search on the certification unit, which is how all these cars get certified. And I'll just bring it up very quickly so everyone can play along at home. And you basically just put in Tesla and search. And we see we've got Model 3, S and X. So one day there's going to be Model Y. Now, that's not to say that Tesla hasn't already opened reservations by then or orders, but this is where you look. So it's just this URL here, which I'll just paste in chat for anyone that wants to bookmark it. do that in a second.
Harold, while you're doing that, we should mention, if we're talking about the fire, we should also mention that Tesla saved another life and potentially saved quite a few. So this was the story of the guy who passed out being over the limit.
Yes.
I'll see if I can share the screen if I know how to do it. Share content. Screen. Here we go.
Yes, there you go.
Yep.
Yes, so he's passed out. Is that a video, is it? No.
There was a video with it. It's just loading up slowly. I'll try and play it.
Ja, da ønsker vi velkommen tilbake til lendo.no, der bankene skal kjempe om å refinansiere Vilma sine dyre smålån og
but they're Norwegian ads, so it's kind of cool.
lavere rente.
Ja, vi I gang, vi. Se her da, det bank nummer 14 som kommer veldig godt ut, synes jeg.
There you go. You can see his head.
Klokken har akkurat passert 5:30 fredag morgen. Her kjører en Tesla på E6 mot Vinterbro. Alt da normalt her, tenker du, men tipseren av denne videoen aner ugler I mosen og tar opp mobilen og filmer. Da han kommer på siden av bilen, sier tipseren at sjåføren sover bak rattet, mens bilen kjører I ca. 100 km/t på motorveien. Jeg trodde først det var en spøk, men så jeg at han sov, med hodet hengende ned og ingen synlig hend.
I'll get rid of that. Sorry, Jared?
I thought you were translating it for us.
Chcel som to prekladať zo slovenčiny, ale oni rozprávali po norvégsky.
After leaving the casino, I was very pissed.
I didn't know that you just actually requested asylum there, Pete.
As my wife says, you're very welcome in our country.
Yes, that's very cool, actually. I mean, that is one of the safety features of autopilot. I presume that actually, was he putting a bit of weight on the wheel, or did it eventually come to a stop?
No, it actually pulled him over. So I put him in the autopilot sin bin, and in the tunnel, it pulled over. And he was still asleep, and they were banging. Actually, further along that video, you can see they were banging on the window where his head was leaning, and he still wouldn't wake up. So he was, properly passed out.
What did you do, Nigel, when you woke up? Was he banging on the window?
We're being recorded. I didn't want to link it to Nigel.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Alrighty, so
no comment.
We might say
Which Nigel are you referring to? Must be Saunders, not me.
Yes, we got two Nigels. This is barely enough. We can then segue into another thing that happened last week, which was pretty good, and that was this.
It's pretty cool vision.
That Model S needs a wash.
Yes.
So even after all that rain.
So does that burnt orange Model X.
Yeah.
The rain makes them dirtier.
Especially the black paint.
I was going to say, yeah.
And
that is very cool.
That's not all of them. That was most of them, because a few came later. So yes, that was our casual meetup at the St. George Hotel, which not coincidentally was actually, no, it wasn't coincidental at all, was as close to the Karrinyup Supercharger as we could get it. Unfortunately, there is no public Karrinyup yet, But as soon as there is, we'll have another casual meetup there. So I think that's all the sort of mainstream news I've got.
Hey, Harold, what about the other Vita Prime news? The one from this morning?
Oh,
did you hear about that?
443, I think it was.
443 Model 3s of various flavours have landed at Fremantle. Cool. Which, for this early in the quarter, is kind of mind-blowing. It's, let's hope this is just one of them and there's even more to come. So we've basically gone from 200 deliveries in the first quarter, nearly 400 in the second quarter, and we've already got 400 in early August.
Wow. So,
and we haven't even got Model Y yet. Of course, getting back to the Model Y, the reason why that's here is for certification and possibly for a launch, although with everything locked down over East, I don't quite know how they're going to do that. But it might also be a press opportunity to get for press photos and things like that. So clearly Model Y is going to come just around the corner. So, with 41, Pete?
400, something like that. 440 something, 443 or
it's just amazing. So no doubt Osborne Park is going to be berserk over the next couple of weeks, which is probably why Harry took this week off. I reckon he needs a bit of a rest to be ready for the onslaught yet again. And speaking of onslaught, go on, Pete.
I know. I was just going to say, be interested to know whether you agree with these figures, but just from my count, I think we had about 800 odd by the end of March, and then another 400 since then, and then another 440 as of this morning. So 440 on 1,200, that's more than a 33% increase. And, we might still possibly get another shipment before the quarter's out. So,
well, that's 1,600 if you include this 400. It's just going berserk. Yep. And I mean, I can't drive. I used to be able to drive for days and not see a Tesla. Now I can't drive a day and not see one. In fact, I can't drive for an hour and not see several.
I saw 3 today.
Yeah. And of course, if you go anywhere near, imagine little kids living anywhere near Karrinyup going, oh, I'd love to see a Tesla. And they're just going to see Tesla, 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 Tesla. And speaking of which, we actually found this out. We tweeted it out as well. And that's to do with preconditioning your battery. So quite a few people have gone to the supercharger because they don't live very far away from it and been quite disappointed with the low rates of charge. And there's 2 causes. There's a cold battery and there's also a battery that's got a fairly high state of charge. So I've noticed a few people turn up with, 70%. Well, at 70%, you're never going to get a very high rate of charge in any case. But others have been at a low state of charge and still not very good supercharging. And that's because their battery's cold. So what you need to do is navigate to the supercharger pin. So you bring up on the lower left-hand corner, and I think I described this last week, the little lightning symbol. I'll try and bring that up in their little simulator. And what you do is you actually navigate to that pin. What you don't do, which I only found out today from a member who lives in Mandurah, drove all the way from Mandurah to Perth looking forward to an awesome charge. And he was on 30% state of charge, so he should have been flying through, and he only got something like 30 kilowatts, and he was rightly disappointed. He did navigate to the supercharger, but he did so from the app, and by clicking on the app icon or the icon in the charge section of your phone app, but that doesn't actually precondition your battery. So unfortunately, you've got to do it through the screen.
But doesn't the drive itself warm up the battery?
Sorry, say again, Armand?
The drive from Mandurah shouldn't have that warmed up the battery enough?
Not necessarily, because the cars are very efficient, and if you're tootling along, particularly in convoy with other cars, and you haven't got your heater on very much, because it's actually a mild day, you won't actually be heating up your battery that much. Go, Paul, you had your hand up.
Yes, yeah. So I went Monday, and I actually went from Joondalup to the supercharger, but I preconditioned from there, and by the time I got there, I had about 15%, and I got 199 kilowatts top. Yeah. And then it started to peter out after that.
See, that's really interesting. So I did the exact same thing. So I went from Joondalup to Karrinyup.
Yeah.
I got there about 4:25 p.m. So it was 18 degrees. I preconditioned the battery, and I got the message saying preconditioning battery for supercharging or something along those lines. And then I didn't look at it, so I don't know if it disappeared or if it was still there. And I purposely ran my state of charge right down, and I got to about 5 minutes away from Karrinyup. I cancelled the navigation and I put in the charger again just to see if it would precondition again, and wasn't preconditioning, so I presume the battery was already okay. And I got there with 5% state of charge, plugged it in. There was only one other Model S, and I was in stall 4. He was in stall 2. So I know these ones should all be individual, but I just thought I'll leave a gap just in case, do everything. And the most I charged from 5% to 85%. I took screenshots all along the way. The most I got to was 62 kilowatts.
Wow.
Performance.
And you're in stall 4.
And I was in stall 4. And when I got back, I was the only car charging. And it was still around 18 degrees outside. So.
Yeah. I can't remember what the temp was, but I was in stall 2. So
maybe next time, Pete, try one of the...
Al, can I bring up something and ask the group?
Yeah.
Steve. You there?
Yeah, shoot, Steve.
Yes, Harold.
Oh, sorry, yes, Steve.
I admit to a huge rookie mistake. So I've never been to a supercharger before. We're down here at Margaret River, see the sign? So I drove from Perth down to Eton, all enthused about using this thing. Couldn't get the cable off the machine. Finished forcing the CHAdeMO one, which looked like it would fit the Model 3, but it doesn't. It's got this curious little triangle thing in the middle, and it just wouldn't fit. So I'm a reasonably intelligent man, but I was stumped. I realised that I had the wrong cable, but how to get the other one off? Of course, you don't just pull it off. There's a little hook. You unhook it, lift it up and pull it out. And then everything went as planned. But by that stage, I had emailed about everyone I knew to say, what the hell do I do?
Unfortunately, while you were emailing it, which was I think,
you're all meeting together.
10:30, we were at the actually we were at the supercharger at the time.
You were, yes.
And
I don't blame you for that, but anyway, you learn by your mistakes. The second thing is a little bit more tricky. When I arrived at Stay Margaret River, I asked them if they had EV charging there, and said proudly, yes, we do. There's a 25 flat fee for using. I said, $25, but I'm only just topping up. And they said, well, no, it's just 25 whether you top up or you're fully charged. So I emailed the manager, and I've sent a email to, is it Ken from Tesla?
Yes.
And I explained the problem. Anyway, the chap from the motel sent me an email saying, yes, we charge, but we don't know how to monitor what power you've used. So it's 25 for anyone. They've got a 3-phase 5-pin plug. I don't know where it is on the property. It's no use to me, because down the road, only about half a kilometre away, is an RAC fast charger, which we're getting like 330 kilometres per hour charging out of.
Yep, that'll be right. Yeah,
that's the one. So anyway, the point is that the manager said, look, we would love to charge customers for what they use, but we don't know what to buy, who to install, what to install, and we're leaving it at that. So I plan to get back to him if there is an answer out there as to help the EV community.
There actually is. The answer is one of these, which is the Generation 3 wall connector.
Right.
It's not an immediate answer though.
And that's potentially only an answer for Teslas though. So if you want something broader, it might be better to get.
So I have a feeling I've seen on I think is it evse.com.au. I'm pretty sure I've seen on there a 3-phase 22 kilowatt charger that you can do PayWave on.
Okay, so
I happened to come across it the other day. So
if you connected to that, it would charge through your Tesla account, and the hotel wouldn't have to worry about it. It would just go straight through.
No, with I guess what I was looking at, you would use your whatever payment card you want to use.
Yeah. And
then you would pay for your charging, and then the place would get the majority of the fee, and then the intermediary company would get a cut. So
yeah,
that would be how I imagine that would work, unless anyone's got a better solution.
Yeah. So getting back to the Gen 3, that would do it, but for Teslas only, probably Teslas only. But having said that, Elon Musk has declared that superchargers will be open to all EVs.
Yep.
So the corollary of that might be that the Gen 3 and possibly Gen 2 high power wall connectors might also be opened up to other EVs, because I guess that just makes sense.
It then just depends whether they want to spend, $1,000, $2,000 on putting something like that in. I've actually insisted on paying $20, $25 at places before, just because, they don't have to put charging facilities in. So I don't mind, or even donating it to a cause that they, want, because it's more important, I think, just to have charging at places where we stay than to quibble over. $20. But I get your point.
It wasn't quibbling. The RAC charge to top up was $13.
Yeah, right. Wow.
$13, $25. I mean, I'm not a poor man, but I don't like to throw money away where I...
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I guess the answer is just don't charge there at all if the terms are unsuitable. And Margaret River's actually got quite a few venues, including the fast DC charger. And you've got a couple of wineries too, which I think are quite happy to have you charge there for free while you're attending. But yes,
just the point that I think made before as well is never obviously forget that most of these businesses, even if they charge you the $25, even if they charge you a $50 or $100 flat fee, they'll never get their money back. So they're really doing it, for your benefit.
Yeah. You're trying to make me feel bad, Peter.
Yeah. I am. But yeah, nothing wrong, with giving him $30 and a $5 tip.
At this stage, I think we've got a couple of new people, unless I'm terribly mistaken. I think Kurt, this might be your first time. If it is, welcome. And if it's not, welcome back. Armand, I'm not sure if you've been on before, but welcome. And Ben C, welcome too.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, Kurt. So which Model 3 have you got?
None. I've been a lurker for quite a while, and I'm sorry. I apologize. Olympics on in the background here on the television, so I apologize. There's a bit of background noise, but we've been on the wait list for a Model 3 for quite a while, and at this point are still on that. But I've joined. I think we're members of the club some time ago. Dropped off, then have rejoined because we're getting closer to that day. And I'm a complete newbie. We're going to have a ton of questions along the way. And so I appreciate that you guys are on here and doing this kind of a session for everybody, because no doubt it's going to be extremely useful for us going forward, because we're effectively starting from scratch. And while I find all of this quite interesting, charging remotely, you know, traveling, et cetera, for us, the primary issue will be, how do we get set up at home? And if we do push the button on a Model 3 sometime soon, what does it actually look like? What extra costs are we going to be needing to think about? What kind of infrastructure do we need? You know, just by way of a sidebar, we've got 3-phase power here. We think that's better. We think that's good. How much better is it? You know, is it all of these are questions. And I'm sorry, I should have an entire list, but I'm really just getting used to the format of your meetings here and trying to find out how you guys do what you do. And so then I'll know the right place to come in and start asking questions.
Okay, so the first thing is the format is completely open, as you can see, and you've asked all the right questions, and we can go through them sort of incrementally. But what we sort of find is, if we just bombard you with all the answers, you're just going to get overwhelmed, and it's just going to be overwhelming. But one of the great things is when, and I'm not suggesting if, but when you order a Model 3 and when you receive it, and if you needed any sort of confirmation of why you should buy a Model 3, we can get into that as well, because we've done that several times.
Yeah.
In fact, let's do that now, right? So you're still on the fence. You haven't quite committed to ordering one yet?
Well, no, I guess I should say we're pretty committed Tesla fans, generally speaking, kind of at a very broad, comprehensive level. I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you guys what Tesla has done for the world, generally speaking. But I guess the Model 3, you know, the Model S, great, but that was probably a vehicle that for our family situation wasn't really necessary or appropriate. I think the Model 3 is exactly in the zone for us, sitting on a Mercedes A-Class right now as a vehicle that we would likely replace and love to have as a short-term around town family vehicle. You know, it's the usual story. We're going to be 99.5% local trips, no more than 10, 15, 20 Ks around. We're going to be charging at home the whole time. I mean, I can't even foresee when I might use a supercharger, although you're all going to tell me sooner than I think. But I guess I would say we're going to be looking at how we set up our house. We've got some renovations potentially coming up if the building boom ever gets over and we can get a builder. You know, we may look at that. And, you know, for instance, a new carport, I'd be thinking very much on a design perspective. Where would I put a wall charger in? How do I get best access for not one, but possibly more than one electric vehicle in the future? I guess I should also say we're also on the list, and I will never take delivery, probably only my grandchildren will, of a Tesla truck. You know,
don't say that.
A cyber truck. So you know, I don't.
3 years.
3 years. That sounds great. I'm still alive then, I think.
Yes. Because look, there's half of us in this room have got reservations for a Cybertruck. So don't be too pessimistic. Okay. So the first principle is, Tesla is to cars what iPhone is to mobile phones, right? It really is an iPad. Let's call it an iPad on wheels, and that's the first fundamental thing. We are somewhat fanboys, but we're quite critical thinking fanboys. So we all used to have Nokia mobile phones, and they were awesome. And Nokia was one of the biggest companies in the entire world. Everyone had a Nokia phone. You know, basically. And then came this fruit company. They invented this flat screen that had no tactile feedback. And quite a few of us Nokia sort of users thought, well, that's a bit stupid. You know, okay, it's a bit fancy and it's all right, but it's super expensive. And, you know, is it that good? And a few of us held out to, you know, generation 4 of an iPhone. Now, in less than 5 years, everyone had a smartphone.
Yeah.
So the short answer is, you know, a Model 3 is an iPad on wheels. It's all about the technology. It's about the fact that, I mean, my car is 4 years old. It's an old car. It's done 178,000 kilometers, and it's never had a service, not once. Yes, it's had tires, because tires do wear out, like in all cars, but it's never had an oil change, a regular service, a regular inspection that cost me money. So that's the other thing. Yes, they're slightly more expensive than an average car, but the total cost of ownership is vastly less. And you've got the convenience factor. I just incidentally heard today that people were whinging and I don't mean to say that sort of leely, that the petrol price was something like up to $1.70 a litre or something today. It was like a record high.
$1.78.
$1.78. You know, and which is outrageous, literally. But you know, imagine never having to go to a petrol station and just having the convenience of plugging your car in. Now, when it comes to charging, the great news is when you first get your car, you need to do precisely nothing, because in the boot, you'll have what they call the UMC, Universal Mobile Connector. It's like a portable charger unit. It's got a 10 amp socket plug in it. You just plug it into a 10 amp outlet. That alone will get you 120 kilometers of range overnight.
And that's straight up single phase. That's just no complication.
GPO, general purpose outlet. Now you're saying you're renovating a house or whatever, configuring it. You've got a multitude of options. The fact that you've got 3-phase is awesome. It means that you can charge your car at 11 kilowatts, which is about 70 kilometers per hour, which means you can be from flat to full in a few hours.
There's a couple things I just mentioned. I'll just break in. And let me say, you're really kind of preaching to the converted on the merits of Tesla generally. If it was up to me and money was I'd already have a Model S. I mean, you know, that's a lovely vehicle, but the Model 3 is the practical family alternative. There have been two issues which are worth mentioning here. One is the price. I think when the Model 3 came out, we were very excited to see it. We thought, this is it, Tesla breaking into the mass market. And I think if I talk about where we as a family thought the right price would be for us, it was probably something around 60,000 Australian. Is kind of that was about the level we thought, yeah, you know what, we can actually, that's a lot more than we'd pay for, you know, a similar class Mercedes or something, just as an example, something like that, you know, small economy style car. But of course, we know they came in substantially more than that. And I think the middle of the range Model 3, when they first kind of hit our shores here, was a good 50% up from there, to be quite honest. The one I think we were kind of wanting. So part of the delay has been waiting for some kind of competition, please, for Tesla. Something to bring prices down.
You might be waiting a while, Kurt.
I know.
Actually, no. There is the Nissan Leaf.
Okay. No, look. I mean,
yeah, there are a few. BYD are going to start bringing out some pretty compelling vehicles.
$35,000 BYD, Richard.
Yeah.
You know. In about 6 weeks.
Look, you guys know better than I. Every auto manufacturer in the world has been threatening to bring out electric cars. They all want to have electric cars. But the Nissan Leaf is a perfect example of how it never quite caught on. And if I go even further back, remember that Honda green thing with a battery in it that used to, like way back in the days, a decade or more back, you know, you look at that, well, maybe that's the future. But I mean, the Nissan Leaf is a perfect example of why.
It's a great car. It's a great car, the Nissan Leaf. It comes with a 35-metre extension lead.
Okay, maybe that's a merit. Maybe that's a bonus.
If Nissan had actually put some proper battery cooling in the Nissan Leaf, it wouldn't turn into a doorstop in Australia.
Well, yeah, and our fundamental premise here really is that the biggest problem with all of these other guys, but not Tesla, and why it's unique, is because it designed this car from the ground up. It didn't try to adapt its existing manufacturing technology to, you know, hey, let's make an electric car now.
Well, they did,
which is what everybody else has done.
They did. Tesla's no different to the other manufacturers. They initially started with that approach. They tried to adapt the Lotus Elise, but what Tesla's very good at is making mistakes quickly and learning from it. And they learned very quickly that it's, you know, Elon even said that I think they changed 85-90% of that lease. So what's the point of starting with a existing car? You might as well design it from the ground up. But one thing I'd mention about the cost. So first of all, $60,000 exactly where the standard range plus is now. But in WA, unfortunately, we've got about $6,000 worth of taxes on top of that. So if you were to buy that car in Canberra, it would be under 60,000. But yeah, so it's 66,000 on road. But I think it's a mistake just to focus on the upfront cost. what I would say is look at the total cost of ownership, and if you include, everything, so cost of fuel, maintenance, depreciation, which is a very big component, but even things like registration and insurance. And let's say you buy the Model 3 Standard Range Plus and your neighbour buys a average $40,000 petrol car. That's the average cost of a petrol car in Australia, between $38,000 and $40,000. Obviously, the longer you hold your Model 3 for, the better off you'll be. But even after 3 years, if both of you sell both of your cars, you'll probably find you've got several $1,000s more left in your bank account. And you've got the safest car on the market, and you've got a car that keeps on updating itself and staying relevant, and you've got a car that can potentially, one day be able to drive itself. At least it's got all the hardware for that future software capability. And it's a much faster car than, that petrol car would be. And it's got 3 boots versus 1 boot. And you've got, and you're doing your part for the planet. So
and insulating yourself from fossil fuel price rises.
Oh yes, don't we know about that?
Which should probably be 10 times higher anyway. But.
Yeah. Let me just before I yield the floor, let me just get to the second point though, because that on all that, I guess we would get there if that was the only story. There's another thing which is about the timing, and that is we have a 5 kilowatt solar system on our roof. And like many others, we got that system up just at the end of the feed-in tariff regime. Many of you who have solar will understand and know about this. That scheme pretty much now is over. August, in fact, 10 years ago was when we got our panels put up. And now we're coming off the 47-cent tariff. We're going down to the 7-cent tariff. And suddenly, I really don't want to ship power to Synergy for 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So we knew this day was coming. So this timing now is quite ripe in a certain sense for us, because we're going to have lots of power. We put up a big enough system. We've got surplus, and we knew that we would be electrifying our house, and the electric vehicles were part of our future eventually. And now that day has arrived. So we were hoping at the same time prices would come down, and it would all be easier, and people like you guys will be out there showing us the way and shining a light. But I guess now it's become real, because come next month, I'm down to 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So I'm feeling it.
Okay, so there's one thing that every single person here that owns a Tesla will tell you is they have one singular regret. And that is they didn't get their car sooner.
Absolutely.
Like, I'll tell you, that is their one single regret.
Oh,
absolutely.
My single regret was I didn't get the beach pack with the leaf. The missing leaf. I didn't get the full beach pack kit. That was my regret.
Actually, Jared, I think what you didn't get was the blower accessory for your leaf.
Yes, no.
Oh, very clever, Harold.
I missed out on that one.
So there was one thing you forgot. Paul. You forgot fart mode.
Fart mode.
Of course. How could I?
Just for Kurt's, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, for Kurt's benefit, has anyone got a costing comparison between an internal combustion engine and a Model 3? Australian costing?
I did one a long time ago, but it's basically a fruitless exercise. The reason why I say that is just like with any model, it's really rubbish in, rubbish out, and there's such a big variability in the inputs, and it's so individual that I've done about 3 or 4 different models, and each time I just regret ever starting the exercise because and it's very hard to get the biggest factor. The depreciation will make or break every single model. That is by far that is a bigger factor than all the other factors combined. And it all depends on where you get your depreciation figures from. But I mean, you can just do a real quick back of the envelope. You can say, okay, in terms of maintenance costs for a Model 3, what, $200 maximum if you're being really conservative. If you service a car as you should, probably, a petrol car, probably at least $1,000 a year. Your fuel savings will be about $1,500, you could say. So, the average person in Australia drives about 15,000 kilometres. If your electricity costs will be about a quarter or a third or a fifth, depending on your personal circumstances, versus your petrol cost. So there's your petrol savings. Insurance, rego, they're pretty much, they are material, but only just. So it really comes down to the depreciation, and the depreciation is, look, I mean, there are figures from the US where because the Model 3s have been around there for 3 or 4 years now, and they've looked at, and these are figures from quite a wide range of cars, so tens of thousands of cars, and the Model 3 had a depreciation rate of 10.1% after 3 years versus an average car of 39%. Now, that's the most aggressive depreciation difference that I've seen, but it's also perhaps the most reliable. Other people have said it's closer to about 20%, versus 40%. But whatever depreciation number you use, at the end of the day, that's what the model will hang on.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we all just buy them because they're a lot more fun to drive than anything else, that's for sure.
Yep.
Speaking of electricity, I'm a new owner, new member of the club. Thanks for Sunday. It was great. Really enjoyed it. Someone said I should get onto the Synergy EV plan. So I rang up Synergy, found out that anyone who's either an account holder or is an authorised person on the account and an owner of a Tesla is entitled to get the EV plan, which is, you've got to be up at 11 o'clock at night or 4 to 4 in the morning to use, I think it's 21 cents a kilowatt hour, the cost cents per hour, whatever it is. Just wondered, how do you, is there a timer to turn on a Tesla to charge? Is there any?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Harold will show you in 1 second. Harold, can you bring up your famous simulator?
So,
there you go.
So what you do is you've got your main screen, and then you go into charging right here, and you'll see that you've got scheduled departure, but you can also go into scheduled charging. Right. And then you can actually tell it what time to actually start charging the car. So in this case, you'd set that to, 11:15, just to be on the safe side. And that will then charge your car up. In the 5 hours that tariff lasts, your car will be full. If you're on any sort of, 3-phase or normal fast AC charger. The other thing you can also do is a scheduled departure. So you can actually tell it when you want the car to be ready for you to normally go. And when you actually go into the settings, you can do that you can actually precondition the car, which means if it's cold, it'll get it nice and toasty warm for you. If it's hot, it'll cool it down. But you can also do off-peak charging. And you can tell it whether that off-peak applies all week or only on weekdays. And you can actually change the off-peak hours. So you set the time at which that discount ceases, which for the Synergy EV tariff is 4 a.m. So you'd put 4 a.m. in here, and it would then make sure that the car, it actually starts charging several hours before it predicts it will be fully charged. So that's another thing that you can actually do is the scheduled departure with off-peak charging. So there's several settings. You can either tell it to start at 11 p.m. or you can tell it to stop at 4 a.m. depending on which way you want to go.
And that's from the main screen, is it?
Yeah, so if you go into your main screen, you've got actually, you can also do it through the charge icon, which is here, but that's only, I think, when the car is, I think it works on there as well. But you've got this little arrow, so you click here, and then you.
Sorry, Harold, are you? I can only see you. Are you showing some other screen or?
Oh, can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, that's because you've got. No, we can see the screen. It's Basil. It's because you've got Harold pinned. So see if you can hold down the screen and unpin him, and then you should be able to see the whole screen.
Right, got it. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Okay, you got it there. So I'll just go back to the default screen. Yeah. Right, so this is the normal screen. So you then just click on this little up arrow and then charging. And then it depends on what it's defaulted to. This is scheduled departure, or you can go, so again, if we do scheduled departure.
That's the easy one.
That's the easy one. But if you go scheduled charging, you can then, oops, sorry. Oh, I've got to get this to click correctly. Here we go. You can schedule it when you depart. You can then go into settings. You can tell it whether you want a precondition, which is heating up the cabin or cooling it down. And it will also precondition your battery as well. And you can have off-peak charging, which can either be all week or weekdays. And you can change when the off-peak hours are. And in this case, it's when it ends. So this would be 4 a.m. for Synergy.
Synergy is Monday to Sunday, isn't it? It's 7 days a week? Or
yes,
is it only?
Yes. No. The discount applies 7 days a week. And the great thing about that is the discount applies to your entire house. So if you've got massive aircon running on a hot summer's night, your aircon will, everything you use from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. is at the 30% discount. And there's no other things in the tail. So there are no higher tariffs in the afternoon peak or evening peak or anything like that, like you have with the Smart Power tariff. So in one, and it's compatible with solar, with the normal feed-in tariff, solar. So most people are just on the standard L1, 29 cents a kilowatt hour, 24/7. And you can have with or without feed-in tariff for solar if you've got it. This EV tariff is compatible with that because it doesn't affect it.
I did notice on the Synergy website, it said it's a trial.
Yes.
Do we know any more,
Well, they'll trial it until they decide it's a bad idea for them, or they may modify it, they may improve it.
I think the reason for that wording is that Synergy has traditionally, if they introduce a tariff and then they abandon that tariff in that they no longer offer it, they class it as a legacy tariff, and those people that were already on that tariff, they can remain on that tariff. It just ceases to be available to new applications. By calling it a trial, I think it means that there won't be any legacy component to it. So if they decide, it just gives them the option to decide to scrap it altogether, even for people that were already on that tariff.
Right.
Because the reasoning behind it is if you go on a certain tariff and then if you make some capital investment, so let's say you invest in a more efficient air conditioner, or you buy an EV based on that EV tariff or whatever you do, and then it gets scrapped a week or two later, well, then you're stuck. It's not a fair. So that's the reason why they're calling it a trial, to make sure that that if you are, So don't go buying an EV and then they cancel the EV tariff and then blaming them. That's the whole reason for that wording. I would
Thanks for that. Has anyone experienced how long they take to approve it? I mean, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Is it days or weeks?
No, it's about
if you qualify, it's only a couple of days.
Right. That's good. I want to get in before they get rid of the trial.
But also, Basil, don't just go blindly into that tariff. There are other tariffs. There's a smart power tariff, and you could potentially be better off on that. The difference is with the EV tariff, there is little, if any, downside. There's the $95 meter reprogram or replacement fee, but you'll hopefully get that back fairly soon. But the smart power tariff, you might be actually better off on, but that does have downsides. So, where you get penalised for using power during different periods of time, especially during peak periods in the evening. So there it is there.
One final question on electricity. We're on the journey in our house to go solar as well. We've had all the India calls and all the commission salesmen come through. And then yesterday I got in touch with Synergy. They use a company called SolarGain.
Yeah.
And I got a pretty awful customer experience today when they said, we had a look at your roof and the angles of your roof are 33 to 35 degrees. And for safety reasons, we won't do the job. So go find someone else. So I went, great. Thanks very much. I just wondered if anyone knows any solar companies that deal with roofs that are more than 30 degrees.
Empower.
Empower.
Go and see Michael or Don, mate. Empower, we're amazing. We shopped around everywhere, and those guys know their business. I'll be honest. They might necessarily be the cheapest, certainly not the most expensive, but in my opinion, and it sounds to me like a lot of the other guys as well have had the same experience. Those guys, they take it very personally, and mate, can't fault it. Cannot fault it.
Who was again? Michael.
The tariff.
Michael. Don is the owner. He's a lovely guy. Well, Michael is the sales guy that actually we're dealing with.
Right.
So,
or Anthony.
Basil, just make sure if it's a 34 degree roof, that is fairly steep, and just put yourself in the shoes of the installer. I mean, that's a 1.8 or a 1.9 by 1 meter panel that weighs 20 kilos that you need to install on a 33 degree roof. A bit of wind gust, and if you're on a second story, even if you're on a first story, if you just break your legs, you probably count yourself lucky if you don't break your neck. So just make sure that they've got the appropriate edge protection harnesses, etc. If it's, especially if it's a tin roof and there's any chance of rain, or, if they're getting up there early in the morning and there's still dew on the roof. I mean, the last thing you want is something to happen like that, on your roof. So, yeah, just, and you should be prepared to pay a premium for that roof, for that installation.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. I just got to find someone who'll do it. And
there's plenty of people that... There's plenty of companies that will do a 35 degree roof, but you want to find a company that will do it safely
and be around for the warranty period.
Oh, and all the other 9 or 10 things that go into assessing whether your solar install is any good.
All right, well, thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it.
I think the big thing might be the new tariff you're going to get, 3 cents a kilowatt. It hardly makes the system viable anymore. And they call it smart meters. The smart meter, it only transmit your usage to them. They can't reprogram it without coming out. So it's nothing smart about their meter. It's not a good experience dealing with Synergy. They're not very helpful, and they're damned expensive. And they've just had a new committee to approve all this new tariffs and their new schemes. I don't know how many on the committee, but it must have cost an absolute fortune for this committee the way they met. And the 3 cents a kilowatt is just, I hardly think it's viable anymore.
Peter, I agree with you that 3 cents isn't much. In terms of the wholesale price of electricity, which is really what it's designed to reflect, it's fairly spot on. And don't forget, it's 10 cents between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. I'm not trying to argue, you know, that it's high or reasonable by, you know, any stretch of the imagination, but it is fair as, you know, in regards to what the wholesale price is, but also looking at it from your personal experience. So let's say, you know, you can buy a 6.5 kilowatt array on a 5 kilowatt inverter as cheap as $2,500, as expensive as $13,000, $14,000. $13,000, $14,000 is ludicrous, but so is 2.5. But call it $8,000 that you spend on a good system. That 3 cents, if you multiply, you know, that 6.5 on 5 should produce roughly about 24 kilowatt hours a day, 24 units of electricity a day. Multiply that by the 3 cents, multiply that by 365, and you'll probably get to roughly about a 3.5 to 4% return on your money. So if the choice is leaving your money rotting away in a bank account at 1.5%, and that 1.5%, by the way, you need to pay tax on as well. So whereas unless you're on a Centrelink pension, and there is actually a Australian Taxation Office ruling to this effect, but this is obviously not tax advice.
Well, that goes out the window in winter. It doesn't work. I'm away, and the last bill was $6. Well, anyway, it wasn't. We're not getting very much power at all in winter, and this winter is worse than any.
Absolutely. And, I've actually looked at a average residential load in Perth versus a average production profile of a 6.5 on 5 kilowatt system in Perth. And I looked at how much power that would be available for export between that 3 and 9 p.m. And then I did a volume weighted average feed-in tariff based on that. And it worked out to about 4.5 cents. So, which basically tells you, so it's a lot closer to the 3 than the 10. So basically tells you that, I forget what percentage it was, but I can look at my model. But it wasn't much power that you'd have available to export, you know, after 3 p.m. In winter, the system's not producing much. In summer, it's starting to taper off, but that's when most households start to use a lot of their power. That's when everyone comes home from school and home from work. So, yeah, the amount that's available for export during that 10-cent window is next to nothing. What is a little bit farcical is that the reasoning that was behind this new time of use feed-in tariff was that it was to encourage the take-up of batteries. And really that 10 cents would need to be closer to 50 cents, perhaps closer to $1 for it to actually incentivize someone to actually go out and buy a battery for that reason. So really it was just a way of reducing the feed-in tariff and disguising it as a way of incentivizing batteries. That's my personal opinion.
I need a lot more convincing, I'm afraid. I wasn't impressed with Synergy at all, and I was incredibly difficult to deal with. They don't win me over at all. I'm not a fan. I would never recommend them. If I get a battery, I'll be rid of them.
I think another thing, a reason for that 10-cent tariff was also to encourage, and I think the Productivity Commission has also done this, is to encourage the placement of westerly facing panels. So you get the last catch, which sort of helps to somewhat mitigate the duck curve, or at least reduce its severity.
I by the way, completely disagree with that whole, I just think that was just something that they thought of that they could sort of add to the justification. Because, so I used to, so I've been in the industry for 11 years, and 10, 11 years, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I used to encourage people to put panels on the west-facing roof for that reason, because it would coincide with their consumption profile. So it's all about your production consumption coincidence. So you try and match the two up to get the best return on your system. But that's becoming less and less interesting, especially as you get more efficient panels and all the rest of it. But more importantly, if you as battery costs come down, at some point it will make sense to buy that battery. And when you buy a battery, you actually want all your panels facing north, because that way you'll produce the most amount of power. And even if you don't get to use it, at least you can store it in the battery. So, so if they were trying, you can't sort of say you're encouraging batteries and it makes sense to put panels on the west. So it's one or the other. Yeah. So yeah, it's like I said, I think it was just one other thing that they thought of that they could add to the justification. I don't buy it.
Now, speaking of justification, one thing everyone should be careful of if you're considering solar is a logical step many people might make is, well, maybe we should get an EVSE that can use that solar and dribble it into the car. And one of the lowest hanging fruits that people will be suggested is a Zappi car charger. Mm. The thing to be aware of is you need to do your research as far as the return on that investment. So I think a Zappi is about $2,500 installed. Now, that's perfectly fine. The principle of the Zappi is to capture the solar that would otherwise be wasted to the grid at, let's call it 3 cents, and divert it to your car. But it's only the surplus solar. It's not, because your house is using some and your 5 kilowatt inverter is producing, it's producing, your house is using a little bit, the grid would otherwise get the surplus. But you've got to do your sums, because you've got to consider the $2,500 as a prepaid fuel fee that then you are trying to recoup with the surplus solar that you're diverting to your car. And that takes a fair bit of energy to do that. And you need to be aware that, if you work away from home, Monday to Friday, your car won't be parked in the garage to absorb all of that surplus energy. If on the other hand, you've got a home office or you're retired or some other circumstance, then it makes a lot more sense. But just sort of be careful not to necessarily tick every feature box when you get solar. Don't necessarily tick a battery system per se, because I think these days, Pete, is it still right? Really, at a retail level, battery storage, it's a great thing to do emotionally, and it's a great environmental thing to do, but it doesn't quite stack up yet. I think.
No, yeah, absolutely. But even from an environmental perspective, it's marginal at best.
Hang on, Jared.
Quiet, Jared.
Look, I say to everyone, if you want a battery, absolutely get one. And there's a million reasons. The best reason I've heard is because I want one, and that's perfectly fine. And there's people that wanted 3 and got 3, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to get one. I've got one on order, and if I can, I'll get 2 or 3 as well. But I won't be doing it for economic reasons. That's for sure. So yeah, so it doesn't matter how. I mean, there's other things that you can do with the battery. So you can do, energy arbitrage. So you can, you can go on a smart tariff. You can charge your battery. If you've got spare capacity, at midnight, and discharge it during a 50-cent period. And if you're charging at 13 cents, discharging at 50 cents, well, there's a 37-cent profit per kilowatt hour there. You can do it, commercially, you can do it for peak shaving, capacity charge management, and there's all, the battery in Adelaide is, it was earning almost $1 million a day at one stage through ancillary services that it was providing to the grid and synthetic inertia and all sorts of fancy stuff. But from a residential point of view, even if you look at the most optimal economic scenario for a battery, I think you'll struggle to get a payback period under sort of 8 or 9 years, and you've got a 10-year battery. So even if everything goes perfect, the most you can really hope for is to get your money back as the warranty runs out. I'm sure Jared would disagree with me, but the floor is yours, Jared.
No, I wouldn't disagree with you at all. But I think anyone that's putting solar on their house and they're doing it to get 3 cents or 4 cents is just a waste of time. And I think I was speaking to Richard about this on Sunday. I think you've got to put that power into a battery and use that power. Don't try and send it back to the grid. It's a waste of time because it's 3 cents now, and sooner or later it'll be nothing. They'll just cut it off completely, and then you'll be putting solar on your roof just to do your washing machine and run your fridge during the day when you should be storing it.
That is a question. When does we got the 7 cents a kilowatt hour you got in just before it changed to 3 and the 10. When does that actually run out?
The 7 cents doesn't run out.
Yeah.
The 7 cents, 7.135 cents only runs out, or it doesn't run out, but it's you automatically go from what's called REBS to DEBS, so Renewable Energy Buyback Scheme to Distributed Energy Buyback Scheme.
Buyback scheme.
If you change your system in any way, so now that doesn't mean that if your inverter blows up and you replace it with an equivalent DC rating, that you're still on your 7.135. But if you've got a 3 kilowatt inverter and you change to a 4 kilowatt or a 5 kilowatt, you go from, or if you add more power, whatever, you go from the 7.135.
Oh, so actually, can you change your inverter from one 5 kilowatt inverter to another and still keep the REB?
No, only if it's the same rating, same kilowatt.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. So
pretty much once you go past 5 kilowatts, you lose the feed-in tariff automatically.
I've
got a 15 kilowatt system at home, and I lost it as soon as I went from 5 to 10, and then went up from 10 to 15, I certainly lost it again. So
I wasn't. If you replace one brand of 5 kilowatt inverter with another brand of 5 kilowatt inverter, you'll still keep the REBS payment.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So check with Synergy just before you do it, because they could change the rules just before you do it.
Yep.
But as it stands, that's definitely my understanding.
So I've got a question actually that might help with Basil's question as well, because it's related to all of this. It's kind of a big question is, have you guys had any experience, either individual as a group, with microinverter systems versus string inverters? That's the first question.
Yes.
And then does that make any difference for any of this charging, blah, 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 et cetera, the story?
Okay.
And the second thing is, second thing is, I have read recently that in the US, you can no longer get a Tesla Powerwall unless you're also getting Tesla solar panels.
That's true.
Is that true? And is that true here as well in Australia?
That's not true in Australia, but that's true in the US. In terms of microinverters, they were all the rage 5, 6, 7 years ago in Australia. The problem is with microinverters. So think about it this way. In Australia, you can boil an egg in midday in summer on your roof. Now, on that really hot roof, you're now putting a solar panel, which has got blue or black silicon, and that's encapsulated, and then it's behind glass, and that's sealed. So it's like a greenhouse. Now, we've measured silicon as hot as 72, 73 degrees. So between your really hot roof and your really hot panel, you're putting a microinverter in, which converts DC to AC, which in itself, that process creates heat. Now, none of those early microinverters were rated to over 60 degrees. And there's a reason why none of them included labor in their warranty. Because when they went, so if you've got a 20 panel system with 20 microinverters, when they go, they're a little bit like light globes. So they don't all go at once. It might be one week, another one the next. So potentially that company might have to do 20 call outs, at $200 a pop, there's $4,000. So that's one of the reasons. So microinverters, in 11 years of being in this industry, I've never recommended, I've never sold a single one. I've sold a lot of, and I've recommended a lot of micro optimizers, which are sort of the best of both worlds between a string inverter and a micro inverter. The difference is that you still have a central inverter that's down on a wall rather than up on a roof. And all you have up on the roof is the optimizer, which is basically just what they call a maximum power point tracker. So it looks at your voltage and your currents to find out what's the maximum amount of wattage. So it just basically does those calculations, doesn't create heat in itself. There's really only 2 brands that I'd ever recommend. One of the brands has got about a 90% market share in that micro inverter, micro optimizer space. And the other one is, doing some great things at the moment. But I would, there is one other brand that you could think of in a niche situation, but I wouldn't, I'd be very careful with installing microinverters in Australia. They work perfectly fine in Europe, perfectly fine in Tasmania where it doesn't get that hot, but you want to...
And would it make any difference to the whole car charging or anything else charging story?
Well, the whole idea of a microinverter, so let's say you've got a string inverter and let's say you've got 20 panels and you've got 2 strings of 10 panels, let's say. Now, with a traditional string inverter, it optimizes for each string rather than each panel individually. So if you've got 10 panels in a string and there's a bird sitting on one of the panels, then the other 9 panels will be dragged down by that one panel. Now, what the microinverter and micro optimizer manufacturers will tell you is that if you've got 400 watt panels and the bird is causing that one panel to be, producing 100 watts, they tell you that the other 9 panels are going to be at 100 watts. That's just simply not true. And you can test it for yourself. You can throw a towel over one of the panels and see what the effect is. So that's not true, but it is true that the other 9 panels are materially and significantly affected by the weakest link. Now, it all depends on what sort of panels you have. So there's 2 ways that you can fight shade. One is at the inverter level, one is at the panel level. So, modern panels have got what I call bypass diodes. Traditionally, they'll run long ways. So if that's your panel, they'll have 2 bypass diodes that way. So, and normal 90% of residential panels have 60 cells. So if one of the cells is shaded, it means that only 1/3 of the panel is knocked out and 2/3 of the panel are still producing power. There's other panels that have got 6 bypass diodes, so they have, so they'll have 3 sections this way and they'll have 2 that way or whatever. There's panels, the leading brand in the panel game has effectively got a bypass diode in each individual cell. So if you've got 60 cells, one cell is shaded, 59 60ths is the power you'll still get out of that panel. So that's
none of that. I understand what you're saying, and I'm familiar with a lot of those issues. None of those things are really, I guess, unique though to EV charging or anything like that. That's just not at all. General stuff.
Not at all. It just means that you're potentially producing a little bit more power out of your solar system. If you've got cheap panels and, with some of the cheap manufacturers, they don't sort their silicon cells properly. Or they might have a big variance in the power that comes, you might have one, they have 400 watt panels and one might be at 392, the other one might be at 404 watts. So, your good panels are dragged down by the weaker panels on a string inverter. Also, different panels will age at different rates and they'll degrade at different rates. So over time, a micro optimizer or a micro inverter, should yield better results. But look, if you're going to be in your house for less than 5 years, there's little benefit to a micro optimizer or a micro inverter unless you have shading, unless you have, a tree or a chimney or a Foxtel dish or something.
Can I just ask, does anyone here have microinverters, a system that has microinverters now?
I've got a SolarEdge system with, I think, they're optimizers. And I have a dehumidifier system on the roof, which I've disconnected, but it does shade one of the panels. But it stops that whole string going down or, exactly like Pete was describing, really. I think it's good. I'd forgotten the difference between microinverters and micro optimizers, so I'd just be careful, know what you're buying before you commit to it. And yeah, but I found it to be good.
Well, the other benefit of a micro inverter or micro optimizer is that you can actually monitor the performance of each panel individually. So
yeah, I can see exactly what panels generated what power every day.
Exactly.
So
yeah, exactly. And some installers will give you access to that, some won't. It's at the installer's discretion. But with that, one of the benefits is if you've got 20 panels and one of the panels is underperforming below its warranted level, you probably won't pick it up on a system-wide basis, because just weather alone can be as much as 20% year-on-year variance. So, but yeah, if you've got panel level monitoring, then you can go back to the manufacturer and say, look, here it is on black on white. This panel is below its performance warranty rating.
Yeah,
now.
and to that point, let me just add this, because I do happen to know this bit about the panels, having helped a couple of people in this area. One was the labor is the killer. There's no labor included in any of this stuff. And so if you have anything go wrong, it's $200 for somebody to pick up the phone and start talking to you, and on up from there. LG panels, interestingly, at least a few years ago, Pete, you may know the answer to this, were one of the only ones that actually also covered the labor for the replacement of the panels if anything should happen. I think most of them do not have that.
SunPower did the same thing.
For about 5 or 6 years, there's been over half a dozen panel companies, panel manufacturers that are available in Australia that covered labour in their warranty. But what you want to look at is how well recognised that brand is in the market. The reason being is if you have a no-name brand, and if they give you the best warranty you've ever seen, that's all well and good. And if in 3 or 4 years all the recalls start coming in and they just Phoenix, which means they just shut everything, just change the domain name, change their name, change the stationery, change the sign out on the front of the building, but everything stays the same, and they start up under another name, then you have no recourse. But even, if you go with a well-recognized brand, even if that company, let's say, goes bankrupt, and this has happened numerous times with solar manufacturers,
yes.
There's a good chance that because that brand is worth something, there's a good chance that a white knight comes in and they buy the brand. And if you're going to be buying the brand, why would you pay the money to buy the brand and not honour the warranty? Because then you're just destroying the very thing you just paid money for. So there's a good chance that they'll honour the warranty, and even if the company goes under. So, but what you want to, this is probably going on a bit too much about solar, but you probably want to try and confine your list to at least what I call Clean Energy Council approved retailers. So the Clean Energy Council is the governing body in Australia for the industry, but they have 3 levels of certification. So you can be an accredited installer, which doesn't mean anything. It just means you're allowed to install panels. And it means you've done a 6-week course. You have to be an electrician, but it means on top of that, you did a solar course. You can be an approved member. So you can be a member, CSC member, or you can be an approved retailer. To give you an idea, the last company I worked for, that process took us about 14 months. I've got a LinkedIn profile. So this is to give you an idea of the level of detail that I went into. They saw that I had a LinkedIn profile. They asked for access to it. They just randomly went through and said, okay, you've said you've done economics and finance. You need to substantiate this. You've said you've done this. You need to. So I had to go back to uni and get my old uni transcripts. I mean, they go through, your problem resolution processes, the figures that you quoted, whether they're reasonable. And that certification isn't there forever. They've got the right to come into your premises completely unannounced, randomly twice a year, and just basically make themselves at home in your office for 2 days and just do a complete audit. So now that doesn't mean that you're going to get a company that isn't going to overcharge you, or that doesn't mean that that company is going to be around, or, it's just one of the 10 or 15 things that you've got to look at. But it's, you know, it's not a bad start if you at least confine yourself to just those companies.
I'd like to say one or two things about this. I think that you just need to think about a couple of things. One that you need to think about is you need to do your research on the company that you're dealing with, because there's a lot of companies out there that have great names, but they're absolute crap. And they don't know what they're talking about, and they advertise on TV every day of the week that they're the best solar company in the world, but they're not. And I've experienced that myself. So you really need to research what company you're getting in bed with. And then once you research that, you really need to know the product. That's the second thing. And that comes down to my personal policy, which is cry hard and keep crying and get over it policy that I have with anything I do. And then the third thing that you can do is you buy one of these things. It's called an irradiance meter. And then you tell the installer where you want the panels and how you want them installed. And then they stop bullshitting you and they listen to what you say and then they do it the way they do it. The other thing I found is dealing with Tesla, and like every product, there's a problem. I deal with electronic equipment every day of the week and there's a problem, but it's a company that you buy the product from and it's a company that manufactures the product that back the product up. And when they installed the battery the battery number 1 at my house, out of 3 batteries, there was a problem. And then the guy that didn't know what he was doing got on the phone to Tesla in Sydney, who then got on to phone in Tesla in Texas. And then he spoke to the technician. He logged into my house, would have been 3 o'clock in the morning their time, and they fixed the problem within 15 minutes, all done. So that's something you got to think about when you're buying the product. So that's why I bought Tesla, because I know the product is good. Yes, it costs more money. I could have bought a lot of cheaper batteries, a lot of cheaper systems, but I went SMA, I went with decent product, and I know it's going to last for quite a long time. I also know that my power bill from $1,250 every 2 months is now down to $140 every 4 months. So yes, I've learned new things recently about how to buy power at 15 cents between 9 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning. And I put that into the batteries and it gets me through winter quite well. So, you know, there's all these systems that you put in place. But they're the main things that you need to do when you're looking at solar, definitely. Learn who you're getting in bed with and learn what you're buying. So,
now, on that note, I'm going to just change it up a little bit. I want someone to tell me what this is.
Oh, that's the Dojo chip.
Dojo chip?
Yeah, with Tesla, it'll come up with the new AI Day on the 19th of August, US time.
Most powerful chip in the world.
Bingo.
Yep.
For the most powerful computer in the world.
Yep.
So AI Day is on the 19th of August.
Be a good day to buy Tesla shares.
Yes, 5 p.m. So that'll be early in the morning our time on Wednesday, I think. Sorry. When is August the 19th? I think that is actually a Wednesday.
That's a Thursday.
Thursday.
So it'll be
So we'll
Friday.
see it Friday our time.
We'll see it Friday. Yes. Sorry. Apologies. Yes. Yep. Dead right. Friday.
Can I just ask a related question about technology and Tesla announcements? There's been a lot of discussion over last year about the 1 million mile battery and, you know, Tesla's research in this area. And there's been some, well, look on the surface, be pretty exciting things happening. And I mean, this has the ability, you know, amongst other things, to make cars last twice as long as they currently do. And I mean, Elon Musk has came out and claimed that his cars are built to go for 1 million miles and the only limitation is the battery. And if you could just get a battery to go 1 million miles, well, the whole thing's set to go much farther. Any further developments on this that you guys know about? I mean, is this in practice? When will we see those batteries in the cars that we're buying? All that.
My Tesla Model 3 will go more than 1 million miles. The battery will outlast the car. The car will look like shit and the battery will still be fine for installation in a house.
Yeah, so in Australia, there's a gentleman that's got a Model 3 that's done 400,000 kilometres. And in Germany, there's a gentleman that drives on the autobahns probably all day, every day almost, and he's clocked 1 million kilometers in a Model S.
Yeah,
he's done that on 2.5 batteries though.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and that's not what I'm talking about really. I'm talking about something different.
But they are old technology batteries, so they are the old NCA chemistry. The current generation. Actually, what would be very interesting is the LFP batteries. They already have a reputation for longevity and many cycles. So they are the batteries that are in the Shanghai built, which are all the cars coming into Australia that are the standard range plus. They have the lithium iron phosphate batteries. And even the NCA, so the nickel, cadmium, aluminium batteries in the Shanghai built long ranges.
Nickel, cobalt, aluminium.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, nickel, cobalt.
Well, there's so many chemistries that we would get lost quite quickly if we started listing them all off. But I guess what I would say is the proof in the pudding for me will be, for instance, to use the Powerwall as an example. I seem to recall that Tesla Powerwall batteries, they have there's a maximum cycle warranty that goes with those batteries. And I think it's either, what is it, Jared, you can correct me, 8 years or 10,000 cycles or something like that. And that's the end of the warranty. So the proof in the pudding is, if we really get batteries which are now lasting considerably longer than that, that warranty should go up. We should see that same battery warranted for a much longer period.
Well, they still do battery upgrades. They still do software upgrades to the batteries. There's still a software upgrade that they bring out every now and then. Because it changes, unfortunately, changes the output of the battery from 3 kilowatts, so from 5 kilowatts per battery to 3, and then I'll have to ring them up and they fix that pretty quickly. So it starts discharging 5 kilowatts out of the battery.
Yeah, that was a regulatory requirement of Western Power.
Yeah,
and that's another complication.
Until you had each phase covered.
Yeah.
So it could be 3 kilowatts.
But Kurt, getting back to your original thing, it's each iteration of battery technology is getting better and better, and the cost is becoming less and less. Yeah. So, for instance, one objection is, well, someone will ask, well, I'm going to buy an EV. How much does a new battery pack cost? Because the presumption is, in your lifetime of holding that vehicle, you're going to need to account for another battery pack. And the short answer is you basically won't for all reasonable cases.
Sorry, just to reinforce your point, Harold, a 1 million mile battery, 1.6 million kilometres, the average Australian car drives about 40 kilometres a day. So, you divide 1.6 million by 40 and you'll probably get about 100 years or something. So that's just putting that into context. Yeah.
The other thing as well is, Kurt, you were talking about the 10,000 cycles. If on average you're putting 200 kilometers, the battery, I think ours on the performance is somewhere around 450 odd Ks realistically. If we put half of that in on a cycle, over that life cycle of that's going to give us 2 million kilometers.
Yeah, well, in fact, backing up Pete's point too, my car has travelled 178,000 kilometres, in 4 years. But actually, I'm at the extreme, right-hand part of that curve. At an average of 15,000 kilometres, that's more than 10 years use.
Yeah, and I don't honestly think where we're at now with the battery technology, it's only getting better and better anyway. Yeah. We're already at a pretty high standard with regards to the longevity of the battery packs. I think the issue. No, you're right. I think the issue really for people that's more of a daily concern is range loss over time.
Yeah.
So
range loss.
If we own the car and we charge it at 5 years, are we going to see a 50% decrease in range? No. Where is that number? So that's more of a concern than longevity. I think the battery is going to go on for much longer than we ever really need anyway.
Well, the current warranty is 8 years above 70%. So 70% of your initial range. So, within 8 years. So and the different models have got different kilometers. So what's the kilometer limit? I think it's 180,000.
160,000 for Model 3.
I think it's 180 or 170 something for the performance.
Yeah, 160
and the long range.
Yeah, 160.
Oh, 160. Okay.
And 4 years, which I'll probably beat that. So,
well, as an extreme example, I mean, my car is old. It's the oldest Model X in Western Australia. Well, it's the equal third. There were 3 cars delivered the same day. My 90% used to be 354 kilometres. Now it's 308. So that is, it's got 87% of its capacity, its range, than when I first got it. But it's travelled more than 10 years worth of average driving. And it's still a perfectly functional car that actually drives like it was brand new.
And it still would have, Harold, even though it's lost that small amount of range realistically, it's still going to have much more reliability than an ICE car at that age and at that distance.
Absolutely.
At that age and that distance, you've got internal wear that you can't see that eventually just shows itself by blowing up when you get to 250,000 Ks, which you're not going to have with this.
No, so notwithstanding the fact that I've already got a replacement Model X on order that's unfortunately not due until the end of next year, and I've got a Cybertruck on order, which unfortunately isn't due until probably...
First world problems, Harold.
Exactly. And, you know, there's an imminent Model Y that's just burning a hole in my order button that says, just buy me, buy me. Yeah. You know, my car, I could keep my car for another 8 years, put another 170 odd thousand kilometres. So let's round that up to sort of 350,000 kilometres, and the rest. And it would still be a perfectly functional car that in anyone's language has been well used.
So I guess what you're saying is, as a practical matter, the useful driving life of these cars considerably exceeds the warranty period.
Yes,
massively.
And in fact, what you're saying is, yeah, there's some degradation, but you can adjust somehow and make it all work out. And
just think, in 4 years' time, I could replace the pack if I wanted to for probably
15 grand.
15 grand, and I could probably then get a pack that would take my range to well beyond what it could ever have been when it was brand new.
Yeah.
You know,
but also don't forget, in terms of the warranties, there's 2 reasons or two major factors in determining how long you're going to make the warranty for. So one is obviously how long you expect your equipment to last, but the other one is a economic consideration. So, and it's a marketing consideration. So when Tesla wasn't as well known, the first few cars had lifetime warranties on their batteries. Why? Because it was the marketing thing, because that's what they needed to do. And now you could argue that, now, you know, I think you could objectively say that the batteries are much better, will last longer, they're much more reliable, the battery management system is better, the chemistries are more advanced, and you're getting a much shorter warranty. So that's so the warranty is not just the reflection of the expected lifetime of the equipment, it's also marketing and a economic consideration. That's why, you know, you buy a Mercedes or BMW and you get a 3 or a 4 year warranty. You buy a Kia or a Hyundai, you get a 7 year warranty. So
on that note, Pete, just a quick funny for Kurt, trying to balance up between an ICE car and an EV. Lindsay had to drive our son's car today to work to Perth. First time she's driven an ICE car for a little while, and she came home and she said, "I effing hate that thing." When you said it, she said that was horrible. I don't ever want to do that again. And it's a Mercedes. It's a fantastic car. And she was like, "Get me out of it. I don't want that again."
I've got to go soon, but I've got one more newbie question to ask, and it's back to the beginning of what you guys were talking about, you know, a couple of hours ago. But anyway, so all these Model 3s are arriving. If I walked into Osborne Park now and said, tomorrow, I want a Model 3, do they have free stock available, or am I going to have to put it in order and wait a while?
I'm not sure about that.
All right, so what you do, Kurt, is you just go to tesla.com and then you go custom order.
Yeah. Current inventory.
All right. Oh no, sorry, I take that back.
Existing inventory.
Existing inventory. Sorry, apologies. Existing inventory.
But Kurt, your availability of what's in the inventory will be very much. So you'll notice most of those cars will be white because that's the most popular color. So it
what's wrong with white?
Depends on what you're looking for.
What's wrong with white? What's wrong with white?
Best colour there is, Peter.
Nothing wrong with white.
So white, we term white poverty pearl white.
Hey,
I had to pay extra for that.
Yes, you did, Paul. Yeah, that was unfortunate.
So the only reason why I've got black is because that was the free colour.
You call it poverty white, Harold. The rest
I wanted white.
The best white.
Poverty pearl white. Now, so Kurt, so for instance, if you like white, you could just have a look at this one, which is in transit. So I dare say it's probably on the ship. That's just
on the ship.
And
use the referral code
on there.
So, no referral code.
Hit the buy button.
Right.
Just buy it, Kurt. Go and buy it. You won't regret it.
No, you won't.
Just Kurt, make sure you use someone's referral code.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Oh, look, I can't buy it because Kurt's already done it. Sorry, Kurt. Someone else has bought it.
So sorry, is it available now? Is that a car that when it gets off the boat, I could buy it just there?
Yeah, actually, getting to that, what you should look if what you've heard tonight makes you have this burning reason to buy a car, the best thing to do is don't go on the website. Just go to Osborne Park.
Yeah,
so it's a corner of Main Street and
Scarborough Road.
I think it's 370 something.
No, it's 297.
297.
Bit hard to miss.
Scarborough Road.
The old Renault site.
Yeah. And you walk in and you say, I want to buy a Model 3.
Performance.
And they'll take you to the computer and they'll ask you what you want. And you'll say, I want a SR Plus in poverty pearl white. And they'll go, yes, sir. And you say, I want it straight away. And they'll look on their computer and they'll tell you what's actually available. Because that website, it says in transit. You just don't know whether that's literally the ones in Fremantle. Because they do overbuy. In the old days, they used to match an order. They wouldn't build the car until you ordered it. So literally and in fact, they used to have a week cooling off period. So you'd order the car and you knew that nothing, and you configure the colors and the rims or whatever, the interior. Oh, that's the other thing too, is you need to suss out the interior, whether you're happy with the black interior or the black
it's got to be white.
It's a Mandra thing, I think.
It's got to be white, mate.
Now, what you should do, I mean, as much fun as it would be to see you, click on the computer and order it right now because, it's all awesome.
Sorry, guys, not going to happen.
No. What you should do is go there, suss out whether you want the black and white interior, because the white seats are white as. And I mean, hands up, anyone here who's got the white interior.
And as Alex says, use a referral code.
Alex,
put it in.
Alex, have you got white?
We'll get to that in a sec.
No, I don't have white.
So white, Harold, I think the biggest sort of take home for white for us is that it made the car feel, and this is just a personal thing, right? So for us, it made the car feel a bit more special because there weren't many other cars that you could buy that had a bright white interior. So it just made it feel that little bit different again, on top of the fact it's already very different than anything else. But also we heard and we watched all sorts of videos and reviews of how easy they are to clean. So sure, they do show up some dirt because of their color naturally, but the material that they're made from is so good and is non-porous in such a way that you can very easily clean them. So all we do is keep a packet of wet wipes in the center console and every now and then we'll give them a wipe over. And so even like you'll get some of the dye off your jeans perhaps on the squab as where you get in, but mate, it comes off so easy that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect yourself. I don't know what the other guys feel with the black interior, but some other friends have said that
if you have sunscreen and things like that, the black will show that up.
And hand lotion.
It swings and roundabouts, I think. You could say that, you know, the white will show up certain things and black shows up other things. At the end of the day, they're made of the same material. It's exactly the same stuff. It's just a different color.
So one thing you've got to be careful of is if you use a lot of
hair gel
in your hair, just wipe it down.
Are you talking to Harold?
I was talking to Nigel.
What's hair gel, please? It keeps my eyebrows stiff.
Can I ask if you've actually driven one?
Sorry, you're asking me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is a multi-year hunt. We drove a Model S probably about 6 or 7 years ago in LA when we were in the US visiting. And then I had some quite skeptical ice driving friends that I took for a drive in a Model S when there wasn't a Tesla headquarters here in Perth, but there was some guy, some rep, and he had like a couple of cars, and if you knew the guy, you could call him up and you could get some kind of a test drive. And I drove it then. Haven't driven the Model 3 yet. Haven't driven the Cybertruck yet. But to me, the S was really all you needed to drive to know what you were in for.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing is just go and order a test drive, and you can actually do that through the Tesla website.
Yeah, definitely do that. Definitely do that. I'd never even seen one before in my life, and I went there. Half an hour later, I put my money down, and my only regret is I didn't do it sooner.
Yeah.
And Model 3, awesome track car.
Okay.
So,
performance.
So Kurt, yes. What you need to do is, you don't just go and order whatever you first see, but do study the interior. Make sure you pick the right color, because this is a car you're going to keep for a few years. So pick the right color and be patient. So, if one of the salespeople say, well, we haven't got a XYZ color, but we've got a, ABC color, just wait. At most, you're going to wait, at worst, 2-3 months.
No, don't worry. This whole process will have to pass through multiple approval sessions with the home committee. So nothing will be done randomly here.
Well, the best way to get a rapid committee decision is for the committee to attend site and sit in the car that's being driven. Now, one great thing is when you do a test drive, you're doing it by yourselves. So there's no salesperson that's in the car with you. You get the car for half an hour. They suggest that the cars have when they navigate, there are 2 default stored locations. There's home and work. And I believe the way they do it is, I think they either say navigate to work on the way out, and that'll take you to somewhere, but it's like a representative sort of drive, which takes about half the time. And then when you get to that destination, you just go and navigate to home, and that'll take you back to Osborne Park. But of course, you are free to drive wherever you want. This is just one of their suggestions of a nice sort of drive. But you can do that by yourselves, with your partner and whoever, which is great. And then go through the car in close detail to work out what you want. So don't be rushed into suddenly going, well, we've got 3 off the boat and you can have this one, but it's the wrong color, interior or exterior, because it's a big purchase, and it is worth waiting, even if it's for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But
and Kurt, if that still doesn't, if you still feel like that wasn't enough, you can hire one. You can rent one for a week and see how that would fit in with your circumstances, with your family, with your lifestyle, etc., and charging and so on, and then you're making a proper informed decision.
Yeah, I'm happy to say, we've had a deposit down on the Model 3 since literally very close to the beginning when they were first announced. So we got money burning a hole somewhere in Tesla's empire, and sooner or later that's going to have to be used. I guess so. I think it's highly likely that our next, what I would call workaday mid-sized family vehicle, is going to be a Tesla Model 3. I think there's a very good chance of that.
You won't regret it.
I will relate one thing, which is quite funny, which is the very first time we took the Model S test drive, which was in Los Angeles. And I remember, we were tooling around, and, Teslas are pretty punchy. And so I sort of, not knowing anybody, said to the guy sitting next to me, because then you had to do it with somebody else. So we're in, this is ludicrous mode, right? He says, oh no, we're not in ludicrous mode yet. And so he looked over, he looked at my family in the back. He says, all right, now everyone place your heads back on the seats. And then he said, now we're switching on ludicrous mode. We're in a stoplight. And you all know what it's like. I mean, the acceleration was absolutely astounding. And the kids who had just been to Universal Studios said that was better than most of the rides at Universal Studios.
Yeah, that's common feedback.
There's a YouTube video that's got some guys where it's not a cheesel, well, it's something like a cheesel, where the front passenger sort of holds this cheesel in the middle, sort of above the center console, and he throws it up. And just as he does that, the driver hammers it, and the cheesel flies backwards into the open mouth of a guy in the middle of the back row.
I'm doing it.
In his mouth. And they
Please,
all
someone film yourselves doing that. I hope next time we're on, I can see that.
You can pull about 1G in a Model 3 Performance.
Speaking of that, guys, I'm having trouble getting the speed limit changed on my Model 3. It's asking for a PIN code, and I don't even remember putting a PIN code in.
You broke it, Basil.
How do you break it? With a hammer?
Is that PIN to drive, or?
No, that's for the speed. You know, you've got the acceleration.
You might have it in valet mode, have you?
I don't know. That's the way it was delivered. I don't ever remember putting a PIN code in, but valet code, that's a clue. I could go and have a look at that. Yeah.
Try 4 zeros or 1, 2, 3, 4. But
have you got your app? You can.
Yeah, that's where I do it on the app. It keeps. I've tried 1, 2, 3, 4, but it keeps
4 0.
It'll let you know.
They'll probably be able to help you. Just get them to clear it.
Well, I rang Tesla and they said they'd ring the salesman or get in touch with the salesman. They said contact the salesman. He's so busy selling cars to people like Kurt, he hasn't responded. So
we tried turning it off and on again.
IT crowd.
That could be a good. That's with anything electrical. That's a good start.
But Basil, just put it in under service. Just create a service appointment. Describe it. Put the appointment, a week or two out, and if you describe it properly, you might find, and maybe just request that the PIN code be wiped, and you might find they're able to do that remotely overnight one day, and you wake up and it's gone. So, and then you can cancel your appointment.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Yeah. I'll do that. Great.
You might have. I actually read online last night actually about a guy in America. I think it might have been a little while ago, but he actually purchased full self-driving. I think it was full self-driving or advanced autopilot by butt dialing it with his phone. So he obviously had his phone in his pocket, and it didn't request a PIN. So he'd obviously gone through and by having his phone in his pocket, he actually managed to purchase this $4,000 upgrade with his ass. So and then he had to get it refunded, and it was a bit of a rigmarole. But you might, I don't know if you've had your phone off, in your pocket, and it might have actually automatically done it accidentally.
Yeah, maybe. Don't know, but I've tried all the likely 4-digit numbers and no luck. Thanks, guys.
So my wife's got an interesting question. I kind of posed it at the meeting the other day, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but essentially what it is, we are two very different people when it comes to temperature. So I like cool air, and I like it all the time. And Lindsay she's a lady, and so she likes to be hot all the time. And we try and strike a balance. And it never really works. And sometimes she doesn't want any air at all. So we've tried to find a way of turning the front seat passenger air off while the driver's air is on.
Hey, Rich, I've got a suggestion.
Kick her out?
Yeah, you can do it. We do it all the time. Sorry, Joe.
How'd you do that?
It's does it work on your little thing, Harold?
Well, no, I haven't got the split.
You didn't do that.
I don't have the split.
It's sync. So you click on the You click on the temperature, I think it is, and then split comes up. Obviously,
Yes.
it won't work if you didn't take the picture.
No, I didn't. Yes.
Giving you away the behind the scenes.
Click on the temperature, but it does not stop the fan.
No, the fan
it won't
can
stop it. But you
Model
can
Y stops the fan. The Model 3 cannot stop the fan. They're either both or none.
What's
change the temperature, so you have different temperatures.
So we know,
so you have it really cold, she'll have it really hot.
Yeah, so we've tried all that, and it doesn't seem to do what we want it to do. And sometimes she just doesn't want the air. So
Rich,
what we notice is when there's no front seat passenger, it turns the air off, like there's no air there. So it does. The car can do it. It's obviously just a software thing where they need to kind of make a change, maybe.
Yeah, but Rich, what you could do is you could point the air towards you and away from her if she doesn't want the air. But if she wants to keep warm, you could just turn on, or she could turn on her seat warmer on.
Yeah.
And that way she can keep warm and you can have the air and you can both be happy.
We'll try that.
That'll never happen.
We'll try that, Pete.
So to do that, you just press on here on the seat warmer. Since we're talking about this is not your answer,
I like it warm. She likes it cold.
Right. So this isn't quite your answer or your question, Rich, but for people that aren't aware on the Model 3 and the upcoming Model Y aircon, this is the default sort of air pattern. But what you can do is actually split it. So what you do is you get your fingers and you go onto where the actual airstream is, and you just pull it apart, and you can then lift it up or down, and you can do the same with the driver's side. In fact, here you can see an example of this little scroll bar actually moves it up and down, and these ones will bring it together or apart.
Yeah.
So that's just
we've got
pro tip.
We've explored the air extensively, so we understand how it works completely. But I guess the point is, or the frustrating point is, if I get in the car on my own and turn the air on, the fan in the passenger side doesn't work. There is no air coming out of the passenger side at all. It'll only do the driver, which is fantastic. If I touch that side, even if it's just me in the car, and I tap the screen on the passenger side, it turns the fan on. So the fan will come on if it's just me in the car on the passenger side. So I'd like to somehow try and get a message back to Tesla and say how it works is fantastic. What we'd really like is if we tap it again or double tap it, that it turns the fan off again, rather than just have the ability to turn it on. Because if we can turn it off, then that makes my wife happy, which obviously makes me happy.
It's funny you say that. That's actually a good function that we do as a club, is we have a direct channel to actually make these suggestions.
Yeah, right.
It's probably a good time to actually just say that out loud. If anyone has any feature requests, get it to us. So you can do that by sending an email. You can mention it here on Ask Us Anything, or you can send an email to secretary@tokwa.org.au, and we can then compile those and then send them up. So that's one of the functions of the owners clubs, is to actually distill, the feeling of the community for things like, feature requests or anything. So
actually, Harold, I do have one. I do actually have one. Sorry, Rich. Because I always have the cabin on recirculate, because I buy those custom air filters from the States that are supposed to scrub out the acid and the alkaline gases and all that drama, all that jazz. But it's not one of the settings that is saved in your profile. So every time we get in for a new drive, it resets to default. And the way that I know that it's not set is I go, I can smell diesel or petrol. And then I'm like, I bloody set it back again. So that would be something that I would like to
I think that's on. I think that's a bug, Richard.
Yeah, because mine does. I have it on recirc, and it's always on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That was the same, but it might be an older Model S.
Yeah,
because it was the same on MCU1 and it's the same on MCU2 that we've upgraded to. So
I found that often, because what I usually do is put the aircon auto.
Yep.
Yeah,
same.
you've got auto, but you then also manually override
Yes.
and circulate.
That's exactly what we do.
Semi-auto. So the auto is
Yep.
sort of a light blue, which means
Yep.
it's still active, but you've commanded it to maintain
Yep.
a recirculate. And that doesn't always survive coming in and out of the car. You're right. But I think that's not a lack of a feature. I think it's actually a bug.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's interesting that they fixed that for the Model 3s. That's good to know, at least.
Well, to be honest, at the moment, I think Tesla have quite a few bugs and glitches in their system.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is they're so busy trying to change or have different customizations for various modules that they're forced to produce so they can actually fit parts into the car to produce them, because they've got a chip shortage or microcontroller shortage of different types of microcontrollers. They have to keep changing their design and get their software engineers to make that compatible with their existing systems, that these bugs come into the system and it's taken them a fairly long time to get them out. By the way, I mean, we've had one owner that was reporting that in a Model 3, that their back passenger window, they get back to the car and they'd find it was slightly ajar, which is okay on a nice warm day because that's kind of ventilating the car. But it's a bit ordinary when it's a stormy, when you've just gone through a severe storm and your back seat's all wet. So I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but there are some glitches that can come about that, Tesla are working on, but it takes time.
Harold, I had that exact issue a year ago. I had it multiple times. I have security in my garage.
I'm done.
And as I opened my driver's door, I accidentally pressed the down window button on the rear passenger window. So it's as you push out on that little door handle, I'm sure I didn't press it, but I can guarantee that I did because it's on the camera. It's exactly as I opened the door. So I actually mentioned to Tesla, please can you make it wind up the windows on exit? And they've added that feature. So if you tick the box in the car, wind up windows on exit, it'll actually fix it if it does accidentally happen when I open the door with my hand.
Yes, this member actually mentioned that he had set that to on and had still found that window cracked down a bit.
I could have sworn it wasn't me, but the video says otherwise, and it has fixed it 100% for myself.
Cool. Okay, cool.
I've got a question, Harold. I haven't received my software update on my Model 3 yet. Do I have to move to Mandurah and live near Rich to get a software update?
I haven't got it either.
Because he's gloating that he's got it, and I thought I might have to move to Mandurah. I mean, it's pretty like the same. When I bought a hole in Colorado, I thought I had to move to Gosnells, but we didn't, unfortunately. So I thought I might have to move to Mandurah to get the software update.
Bring your bikini, mate. Come to Mandurah. It's perfect.
Has everyone else got their software update? Is it just me?
No, I haven't got it yet.
No. No.
What?
I haven't either.
What one?
And I'm in
is it?
Mandurah.
I've got it.
You're probably, Alex, you're probably the dark side of Mandurah. That's what it is, not the sunny side like Reach.
I live in the valley. I'm on the hill.
If you buy Tesla stats for Tesla, an app on the iPhone, it'll actually show you where you are on the list of what you are, what the others are in the world. I'll upload a picture.
Cool. What list is it? I mean, I've done some bad things in my life, like, say that Nigel's new photo of the car doesn't look as exciting as the Elon last week. But, I think I deserve the
No, you've done worse things than that, Jared. I know that for a fact.
Oh, dear.
I do look forward to Nigel's pictures, but tonight's it's not as exciting as that giant rocket penis thing the week before, or that
that's no way to refer to Jeff Bezos. I mean, surely there are other more polite terms to call him.
Jeff who?
So speaking of background pictures, Harold, I'm surprised you haven't noticed yet.
in the background. Richard's
My
changed his
background?
photo.
Because for years I've had the Perth Scotland supercharger
Yes.
as my background.
Just to rub it in a little bit more, have you got the other one handy? Just flip up the other one.
Let's see who's next. So when obviously I went back to the UK to get married, go on a dive trip to Scotland. This was my sister's car, which is identical to mine, at the Perth Supercharger in Scotland.
There you go.
Jeez, look at that.
And that's 12
well done,
stalls.
Joe.
And we've got 6.
We've got 6.
And what's the population of Perth in Scotland?
27,000? No, 27.
Yes.
It's probably not huge, but it's basically where you've got to stop if you're going to go right up to the Orkneys. So it's on that path to the north of Scotland. So
well, it's good they got electricity up there eventually.
Yeah, it's just one old bloke on a wheel on a bicycle.
I was going to say, Rich, is that my car in the background?
Yeah, it might be.
The white one.
Mine and
I
think that is mine.
Is that on Sunday, Richard?
Oh.
That would have been on Sunday.
Friday, I think we went.
Oh.
Yeah, I was there on Friday.
Wicked. I'm in amongst good company then.
Has anyone else? Jared keeps asking me, but we haven't been deducted the
the loot
K's yet.
Yeah. I know.
Do you get like a freebie first go? Is that the deal?
I think they'll catch up on Paul. Paul's probably done it about 20 times now.
If not, I'm going back tomorrow.
We're going to have a telethon just to raise a loot for Paul to get him out of jail. We're going to get a bill from Elon Musk for $20,000 in power. Yeah, I charged up on Sunday and didn't get anything taken out of the old loot box.
No, same.
No, me neither.
What's that about, Harold?
I thought it was that all was forgiven until the pin was on the map, and then that might have then been active billing. I'm pretty sure I saw one of our other members in a Model 3 that it said current session, and it had like $1 something.
Because I got the text from them afterwards saying that if they did move the car in the next few minutes, they were going to bill me when we're on the day. That's the only I got. So nothing come off the loot box.
That's a standard message you get. Now, the way it actually works, the idle fee, which I think is $1 a minute, is you only get charged an idle fee if you have stopped charging and are still plugged in for more than 5 minutes. So you've got a 5-minute grace period, and the supercharger has to be at least 50% occupied. So if it's 11 at night and you're the only car there and you've overstayed for half an hour, you don't get charged anything. It's only if the supercharger location is more than 50% occupied and you've stopped charging for more than 5 minutes. So your app will give you a notification depending on which part of Karrinyup you're in. Or whether you've relented and hooked up to their free Wi-Fi, which you have to, each time you return to Karrinyup, you've got to actually, on your phone, like open a web page or sort of refresh a page so that it then says, oh, welcome back, Jared, and blah-de-blah. But you will get a notification at least 10 minutes before your car is anywhere near finished charging to warn you to go back to it to, move it.
And
also,
Paul, you've done it 4 times.
Sorry, Jared?
So, Paul, you've done it 4 times?
That's 3.
3 times.
3.
Okay.
3 times.
Harold's only done about 17 so far, but
he doesn't get. Harold gets free power for life, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yes, and full disclosure, I prepaid because I had the early adopter tax, and I had this awesome feature of free, unlimited, lifetime supercharging. And my car has traveled 177,000 kilometers before I actually got to properly use free, unlimited, lifetime supercharging. So I dare say there might be some others around that have gotten better deals than I did. But not that I'm whinging.
But in terms of that charging that cost, so I got, it came up as $30 or something, even though I've got plenty of free supercharging kilometers that are still active. So for some reason, if I look in my app, let me just check now, but I don't think it's come off my supercharging kilometers, but that $30 hasn't been charged on my credit card either. Yeah. So I don't know if it comes off at the end of the month, maybe they do it monthly or how it works, but my supercharging kilometers haven't changed and that $30 hasn't come off my credit card either.
Oh, so Paul's in the world of shit then.
I had the same thing. I saw $30 the last time, but it hasn't come off. And I've got 15 here. And then I logged in on my account. It said I had 12 kilometers off the 1,500, but it's not on the app. So I don't know what's going on.
So maybe I need to log in. Yeah, maybe it's just not on the app, like you say.
Try this. Go to your My Tesla account. So you go to tesla.com, go to your account, and you can click on charging, and it will show you all your charging sessions. Yeah. So we'll just do this live in July. I've got a statement, and that worked really well. I'll just get back to you in 2 seconds on that. I'll see why that's not working. It might not actually have one, but you can actually look up yourself, and that will show you what you've used.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've just realised that in my case, it just doesn't record them. It doesn't even bother. But yeah, try that. Just go to Tesla.com, go into account, and then log in, and then you've got your dashboard for your car. Well, actually, there's a dashboard and there's also charging, so you can actually see if it's been totalizing yet. But as Pete alludes to, perhaps they won't actually account for that until the end of the month. Although I think it actually is as it occurs.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, I've gone into charging, Harold, and it doesn't have August, but it's got it by month, and it's got July. And when I click on that, it says the month you selected has no charging sessions.
Yes.
But no, you're right, Paul. It has actually, the free supercharging kilometers remaining has been reduced. So it's come off on the website, just like you said, but not on the app.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Interesting.
So it does. It obviously is in decrementing mode, probably as of when the supercharger pin appeared on the map. Because I think before then it might have been in a offline mode.
And I've just worked out that it hasn't taken enough, so it must still be behind. So it's only that would correspond only to the first charging session that I did. That was before the pin was on the map.
Yep.
So it has actually used that one, Harold.
Yep.
But yeah, it hasn't taken my last one off yet.
Yeah, right.
Which was my big one. So
Harold, any news on the Tesla Powerwall virtual power Western Power, buying your power for peak load?
Virtual power plant.
Yeah.
VPP.
Not that I'm aware of. Pete, have you heard anything in WA?
No, Western Power has had a trial commercial scheme for a while for businesses, but that's slightly different. It's not to do with batteries, by the way, but it's to do with reducing your load.
That was the megawatt project, wasn't it?
Correct, exactly. Yep. But yeah, no, I haven't. I don't know. I haven't inquired, but I haven't heard anything either.
Thanks.
Cool. So has anyone else got any other questions, comments, news?
Yeah, will Nigel's picture be better next week?
Will Nigel's picture be better next week?
Is that the foreground or the
I like it,
background?
Nigel. Good picture, mate.
I like you, Rich. You're a nice boy. Gary,
Try and convince my missus that, Nigel. I'm a nice boy.
Oh dear. What I want to see on Nigel's background is that, I don't know, what is it, a hedgehog, anteater, whatever, that thing that goes yes.
Oh yeah.
That's ordered.
Yes.
That's what I want to see. Or perhaps a launch of the what's it called? BN booster, the Starship booster.
Oh yeah.
Orbital flight. Sorry, suborbital flight, which would be awesome, perhaps.
Yes.
Which could be any time between now and a couple of months.
When's the semi-trailer going to start manufacturing?
Tesla have pushed that and the Cybertruck to next year.
Yeah, right.
So in the quarterly earnings call, I think it was Elon Musk. It's basically all about battery cells. So Tesla is severely battery cell constrained. So they've put off. Oh, there it is. Order complete. Yes. And it's well done, Nigel. What is that thing? Is that a
Nigel? Nigel. Hey, Nigel, sit in the middle. Just crookie down a bit, mate.
I knew you were
down a bit. Down a bit. Down a bit, Nigel. Down a bit.
Leave it light.
Yes.
Oh, he's got hair. Oh dear. So so basically Elon Musk has said the obvious, which is they're severely cell constrained. The 4680s aren't quite yet ready for full production. And to that end, he actually did say that in Giga Texas and Giga Berlin or Brandenburg, there is actually a contingency plan to substitute the 4680s in the new Model Ys with effectively the same batteries that are in your cars, which are the 2170s.
I actually am surprised they didn't just go to 2170s for the Model Y anyway.
No, they want 46. They do in.
They've intended to do 4680s, but I just don't quite understand why. Because obviously the Cybertruck will need the 4680s for long range and towing, and so will the Semi. But for the Model
I'm wondering whether it was a bit of a trial basis, Rich.
It's all cost.
Maybe.
It's all cost. So on Battery Day last year, they explained that they've got cost reductions. I think it was 46%.
No. No, Nigel. Oh my God.
Oh dear.
Well, some people do call me a dickhead.
My next
name. Sincere apologies to the YouTube algorithm that's going to work that little phrase out.
Demonetized.
Oh dear. Yes, we are. Oh no, don't demonetize us. That means we'll still get nothing. Oh no. Except for Patreon, of course. And while we're giving plugs, I might as well plug Damon for watching this in half-hour slots, sitting in his burnt orange Model X, and Ashley, of course, and Joseph, Hosni Mubarak, whoever you are, and others,
and Elon Musk,
and Elon Musk, who's lurking occasionally in between, probably airplane flights or something.
You mean the techno king of Tesla?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly. I mean, the thing is, he won't do future earnings calls, but he definitely will do Ask Us Anything, at least viewing capacity. To getting back to the 4680s, it's all about cost. So the Berlin and Texas Model Ys, which you could call like Model Y 2.0 or something, will have a front casting as well as the current back casting and a structural 4680 battery pack, and that'll save a lot of weight, cost, etc., better performance, and lower cost. But because it seems that the 4680 manufacturing process hasn't, I think Elon Musk basically said that they're working on the last 10% of inefficiency or problems. And I think one of them was the rollers that squash the dry electrodes, like graphite or whatever it is. It actually did that. Those on a larger scale, those rollers actually get distorted. They get bent by the product that they're rolling. So they're working on that. Now, obviously, what's really that was another piece of news that we heard from the drone pilots over Texas, was they got information from a Tesla, they were sort of implying it was an executive, I think it was. That's a shout out to Joe Tetmeyer. He's part of the, I forget what they call it now, the something crew, the drone crew or whatever at Texas, that apparently Giga Texas is getting ready next week to do a prototype run of Model Ys through the production line. And that includes stamping, casting, painting, and assembly. Apparently they won't be street legal, so they won't be ratified as being drivable, but it'll be like a prototype run going through the entire factory, which is astounding considering that when you see the drone flyovers, a lot of the factory looks like parts of it in open air. But in Tesla's earnings report, it actually shows whole sections of production line inside that factory that are completely fitted out. So that's exciting. But
so Harold, with those batteries then, with obviously because the new Model Y is stamped front and rear, which is a massive improvement. And hopefully one day that will come to the threes, but they were relying on those new batteries to form the integrity that is sent.
Yes. So
they're still going to be able to do that with the 2170s. Will they still be able to do that?
No. Well, no. So what Elon Musk has said is there's a contingency to actually produce Model Ys in a more standard configuration. Now, whether that means they do it like they do in Fremont, which is a rear casting, a non-structural pack. In other words, the pack still requires some other stiffening members, like in addition to the pack itself or the module.
Carrying tray.
Yeah. Now, whether that includes or excludes the front casting, no one knows. Well, it hasn't been said, but it could. But the main point is there's a contingency for that case. But what they've done then is they have declared that effectively the Cybertruck will not be produced in any quantities this year whatsoever, apart from alpha and beta candidates, like production candidates, and the same with the Semi. So there were rumors that the Semi was about to be produced imminently, but that has been officially postponed to, well, I presume early next year.
Elon time.
Well, actually, the thing is, as Elon always explains, there's an S curve, or better known as a logistics curve, in ramping up production, and it starts really slowly, and it sort of then peaks at a maximum sort of slope, and you get the I think it's called the asymptote, and then it's sort of then the last sort of 10% takes a fair bit of time to get to that full extent. But because the initial growth is sort of exponential, if you change the timing by a couple of months, you might have a rate of 50 a week to 5,000 a week, and that span could be just a few months, and it depends which month that starts, what your total production is. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. So, we're all disappointed that the Cybertruck isn't being produced this year in any numbers, and we don't get to see, cars driving around, but it doesn't really matter because by the end of next year, they'll be pumping out, I don't know, several 100,000 Cybertrucks. So
what will matter though is whether, if the Cybertruck was to have a payload of over 2 tonnes, as Harold mentioned a few episodes ago, then it would not, then it wouldn't attract the luxury car tax, which would make a huge difference.
So that's something we need Elon to be able to get the Cybertruck to be declared as being able to do. If it can have a payload of 2 tonnes, not just in the tray, but including the trunk and the cabin, then it will be exempt of LCT, and that means that the dearest version that can do 0 to 100 in 2.9 seconds and travel 800 kilometres would cost a whole $135,000 landed in Western Australia drive away. Imagine that.
I want one.
$150. Tesla.com Cybertruck, and the good thing too, actually, Rich, is if you reserve one, you can actually tick that you want full self-driving, and they will guarantee a price of $10,100 fixed cost.
But they won't guarantee. There is no indication of what the actual price will be, just the FSD price.
Yeah, true. So I guess they could sneakily sort of quietly up the price of it. Yeah, that's right. But
they have said, if they were consistent, because Tesla has always said that unlike some smartphone manufacturers, they won't they won't try and gouge you by having different pricing in different jurisdictions. So the price in Australia is supposed to reflect, supply demand, but it's really supposed to reflect the prices in the US, taking into account shipping, taxes, and logistics and everything else.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I was distracted looking at one of your videos, Pete.
No, because I just remembered that I did a whole video on that 3 and 10 cent feed-in tariff thing. I did actually end up doing 2. That was just before the 3 and it was about 11 months ago. It was just before the 3 and 10 cents. Oh no, don't do that.
Oh, look at that. Who's that drug mule? It's Pablo. Pablo, what are you doing?
So just a shout out to anyone that looks at Ahead of the Curve with Pete on YouTube.
I'm going there tonight.
Make sure to like and subscribe and click the notification bell.
No, I wasn't looking for a plug, Harold. I just put it in there purely for people if they wanted to inform themselves more on that. What I was talking about. That's where I graphed the generation profile.
It's all good, Pete. I'll take that little brown envelope cash later on. It's all good, mate.
Did you say Western Power?
Dear. Oh, hang on. I don't think Rich is there anymore. That's much better.
Richard's certainly changed. He's certainly different himself up a bit.
Rich has definitely improved their appearance.
I'm just being out of shave.
Well, welcome, Lindsay.
Oh, I was sat to the right. I was listening in.
All good. It's all good. So so after that plug of that shameless plug of Pete, which was not intended by Pete, that was just me being cheeky. But again, you can see the text above his head. It's ahead of the curve with Pete on YouTube. So Jared, I hope you've already liked and subscribed and hit the notification button.
I'm doing it tonight, definitely. I'm liking it, subscribing.
By the way, I haven't posted up a video in about that long, in about 10 months. So I've got lots of video ideas, just haven't. I need someone to be able to produce the bloody things, to be able to edit them. I've got no video editing skills whatsoever, and that takes a huge multiple.
I can do that for you, Pete. I've edited heaps of videos, and my fees are very reasonable.
It's amazing what they're doing.
I don't want to. I don't want to
senior clubs these days.
I'm happy to pay for it. I'm happy to pay for it. It's all for the community. Happy to pay for it. It's my channel is not monetized. I don't even think it could be with my 2.5 subscribers. But anyway,
it's all good.
Nigel being serious?
I don't know. I think he's just left the building. He's just taken off.
They're doing amazing things down at those mature men's clubs on the weekdays these days, teaching them new skills. So, where's he gone?
He's gone. He's just left the building.
Oh, no, he's back.
He just changed his shirt to marry the car.
Are you talking about me while I was gone? My wife had a bit of a smashing time over in the corner.
No, I was wondering if you were serious, Nigel. Are you a video guy, are you?
I have produced many videos myself, yes. I've got several programs. OBS is actually, that's good for recording stuff because it's free.
I don't even know what that means, but is that a software, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And I've got another program for editing them.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, Shane's just volunteered as well.
Yes, I just saw that. He's been shouting.
Oh, wow.
Settle down, not volunteering, or just may know someone who can assist.
Oh, excellent. Okay, let me make notes. So Nigel and Shane.
Just a shout out because, you know, we have really big budgets, not, you know.
Well, if we got that Patreon thing going, it would.
Well, if we had better content, Nigel, we need content and editing and sharp editing, and it's all good.
I can do the filming.
No, Nigel's doing pretty well with the photos. That's pretty good content.
Oh dear. So
Nigel, I don't think I've got your contact details. Would you mind direct messaging them to me on Zoom? And I'll and same with you, Shane, if you could, and I'll get in touch. Oh yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Gone up.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
710. Wow, that's great.
710 even.
Is that Australian dollars? So that's what?
No, that's US.
Australian.
No, that's US dollars.
Oh, so it's about 8 million Australian at the moment.
Yes, that's right. About that.
What is that?
It's
got it, Pete.
So that means
yeah, I do. Thanks, Nigel.
So Harry, that's
the
Harry, that's the Tesla price, is it?
Yes, Tesla.
Oh yeah. So that means that Paul will be doing about 3 or 4 years in Casuarina, paying off that Tesla bill for supercharging at that price.
I paid more than that, Harold.
Oh no, but Carmen, that's this is post split, so that actual equivalent price in Australian dollars is $4,731.
Oh.
So don't worry, you've done okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Because you've actually got, with the split, you've got 5 times the shares.
In total.
Yeah. I like it.
So you've done okay. God only knows why they did a 5-to-1 split. They should have done 10-to-1. Would have made it a lot easier, but you know, doesn't matter.
Carmen, have you got your upgrade yet?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's another person that's got to move to Mandurah.
Yep.
To get that upgrade.
Which
I don't know
one
that
are you
it does very
referring
much.
to there, Harold? Jared?
So what's that?
Which upgrade are you talking about? Is it the software?
Yes, the software upgrade that.
Which version?
Richard got his car the same day I got my car. Lindsay as well.
Which version?
The 12 point. Hang on a second. The latest version. I'm still running the.
0.25.
I got 25.6, but I've heard 25.7s.
Yes,
I've got 7.
Yes, me
You've got
too.
7?
Yes.
Okay.
So
it's only a bug fix.
My wife's S
Yeah, we
had
got
6
25.7.
a week and a half ago, and then just got 7 today. And my
Yeah, we
car
got 7 this morning.
last week. So, Lindsay?
Oh. We got 7 this morning, yeah. We had the big
cool.
one last night and then a small one this morning.
Yeah, I got 7, I think, yesterday.
We got 7 about a week ago.
Yeah.
Haven't even got 6. Haven't even got 26.
Oh, you'll be fine.
I'm still running on.
It'll come. It'll come. Be patient.
18.2 and no Disney Plus.
Harold says be patient.
Probably when you wake up tomorrow, Jared.
That's what I thought this morning.
And yesterday morning.
And yesterday morning.
Life is full of little disappointments, you know?
Absolutely. And then when Richard texted me saying that he got it, I was more upset.
Well, I don't know that it actually has changed very much, Jared.
Oh, really? Isn't there Disney Plus in the car?
No, not yet. That's another major one.
Oh.
Yes, but you can actually get Disney Plus in your car
now already, can you?
Yes.
No, you can't see it.
Alex, what are you showing me? Your phone, but looks I can see a car. I can't see the car.
Put it in front of your head.
Oh, that's better. No. Just all I can see is the photo of your car when you put your phone up.
I have an idea. I'm only on 18.2 as well. So
Because you're in the bad part of Mandurah. That's why. You need to be near Rich's side of Mandurah. The poor.
I'll have to move in.
So to get Disney Plus, you just click on any of our videos, and notwithstanding that Nigel's asleep again, you can just scroll down into the other details. You can do this in your car, and just go to Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, yeah.
And that's the less efficient way of doing it.
Can you go back to the Pablo, the Mexican drug lord that we just looked at before? The Pete's Pablo. No, before that.
Sorry. Yes, I get you what you mean. Yeah,
Pablo, the Mexican drug lord.
Ahead of the curve. Yeah, hang on.
Head of the curve, and you can make money on 3 cents. You got to put in the time. There he is, Pablo.
Hey, stop laughing. Everyone's happy. I'm glad I could entertain everyone just by my silly looks. But if you fast forward a little bit, you might be able to get to some of the charts.
Hang on. There's a chart.
What's the drawing in the background, Pete?
Don't ask.
Not the hand
Don't
drawn
ask.
Looks like some sort of Picasso.
That's the duck curve, mate. That's the duck curve.
Duck curve.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Isn't that the ABC logo? The old logo?
Yeah. It's the sine wave logo. That's it. That's a good one. I love that.
Okay, so remember, ahead of the curve with Pete. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
That's it. I'm taking down the channel tonight.
Oh dear. It's all good. It's all good.
Good.
We need to get Pete to 1,001 subscribers so he can monetize the channel and get a real job.
Thanks, Al.
He's going to install solar panels on a 43-pitch roof. in the rain, tin roof.
I've never installed. I've got two left hands. Never. Yeah, I wish I could, but no.
Actually, Damon, you're going to get confused because we're going to be up later than you think you've seen on YouTube. Just a button. Recording.
There you go. Subscribed.
Awesome.
There you go.
Let's have a campaign to get Pete to 3,000 subscribers tonight.
No, please.
We've got 1,000 Tesla owners, so come on.
Exactly. And I mean, I can finally understand why Pete is ahead of the curve because look, he's got two curves. I mean, you're either ahead of one and behind on the other.
Oh, jeez. This is like a pedal of comedians.
I've already watched half your stuff.
No
on,
chance,
get on with
because the average length of my video is about 19 hours, so no chance.
See? Watched.
Oh, look at that.
Too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. Yep.
So you're the guy.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Gold.
I knew someone watched them.
Yes, well, I mean, a big shout out to anyone that watches these videos because they aren't exactly YouTube's, 30-second shorts or 1 minute shorts.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to watch Ben-Hur and then you could have still kept going.
They're 60-second shorts.
60-second shorts.
What was the reasoning behind them, Pete? Was it what was the reasoning in making those videos? Was it work release or?
No, it was just a personal thing. So English is a second language and I've always struggled with public speaking. So that's one of the reasons why, it was in my last job, we were actually encouraged to make a video. There was a solar guy that came and did a presentation to a lot of solar companies and he encouraged everyone just to get out and just do a video for numerous reasons. But one of those was public speaking. And so I've always struggled with nerves and everything. And just thought a bit similar to the reason why Rob Mauer started his Tesla Daily. That was for similar reasons. So, cool. I mean, look, I always had opinions, and the other thing was I've always bored my friends and relatives to death with Tesla stuff. So this way, I started running out of friends. You know, I started losing friends very quickly when I went into my 1 hour monologue. So I needed to expand my audience.
Was it a few hundred each quarter now? So
what's that?
I said you got a few hundred more each quarter.
Exactly.
That's it, and that's why we did this. It's like, we've got the eloquence of Elon Musk.
Just out of interest, guys, question. How does the 443 compare? And that's just WA, right? So how does that compare with what's going on the East Coast? Or am I wrong?
You'd presume we're 10%, but I mean, well, in the past, Perth has punched below its weight in Tesla vehicle sales because we've been the Wild West with no real service centre, no retail outlet, and no supercharging infrastructure. But traditionally, Perth has punched above its weight for luxury cars. So your Ferraris and all that sort of stuff, we've always been well above the national average per capita. So I think Perth is actually probably has turned that sort of full circle. And I think we resumed the mantle as being above national average. So who knows? Maybe that means there's 3,000 on the eastern seaboard, perhaps.
No, that's true. New South Wales is still clearly ahead of every other state, even on a per capita basis. And obviously, Victoria, South Australia on a per capita basis are clearly behind. And we're roughly similar to Queensland. So that's, we've got to give credit to Rob Dean there as well. So I was having that conversation with him earlier this morning. That's why I had those.
And I think New South Wales will be a fair bit behind at the moment because their big EV rebate kicks in September, I think. So there'll be a bit of delay in deliveries to get that September state government rebate, which is quite, is it the $3,000 one or is it?
It is 3,000, yep.
So there'll be a lot of delayed orders. So I guess what that means is I don't know how many Teslas will be in the main ship at Port Kembla, because the ship that's in Fremantle now, that's arrived in Fremantle, has come from Port Kembla. So I presume that's a transshipment. So a ship would have come into Port Kembla, disgorged lots of Teslas, some for local deliveries, and the 440 odd put on another ship to Fremantle.
Unless I'm mistaken, and well, maybe, but I think that ship's got a capacity of about 1,200 cars. So presumably would have come to the eastern states fully loaded. So, you know, to get 30% of that 1,200 ain't bad.
Yep.
At least on that shipment, at least, yeah.
Which is awesome. You know, we just want to see more and more cars on. We want Teslas to be the normal thing, and for us to be able to drive around and go, oh, look, a Commodore, or oh, look, whatever. You know.
Look, that analogy that you made about, you know, an iPhone or a smartphone versus a Nokia or a BlackBerry, that's, you know, it'll be, in 5 years, it'll be just like, you know, everyone that can will be driving a Tesla. We'll be driving an EV. If you're driving an EV, there's a good chance. I mean, what is it in Australia? I think Tesla accounts for double as many EVs as all the other EV manufacturers combined. Double of everyone else combined. So, yeah, if you're going to be driving an EV, there's a good chance it's going to be a Tesla, and you know, there's a good chance you'll be driving an EV as your next car.
Might will change next year. BYD are bringing out cars. They're just bringing out the E6, which is going to be $39,999.
But Nigel, isn't that from a small importer?
Yeah, it's Nextport are bringing them in, and they're going to bring in 15.
Yeah,
but they've got plans to bring in thousands and thousands.
Right. Yeah,
but that won't be till next year. But they're bringing them in. They're going to be really cheap, but you get what you pay for. The E6 will charge rapidly at 60 kilowatts, and it will go to 6.6 on AC, and it's got a 71 kilowatt battery and maybe up to 300k range.
That's that sort of. It looks like a Honda Odyssey. Is that sort of format?
Yeah, something like that. But look, it's cheap. It's going to be cheaper than the MG ZS EV, and slightly longer range.
Only by about 10%. Only by about $4,000.
Yeah, 4 or 5 grand.
Yeah. So, and look, the MG, it's a good car. It's a good starting price, but it's not like they're flying off the shelves, are they?
No.
The MG is going pretty well.
Yeah.
Who's selling them in Perth? What dealership's selling them?
John Hughes sells them.
Oh, John Hughes.
He actually advertises them as well, not on TV, but he does advertise them on radio.
He had a Tesla. John Hughes had a Tesla the other week.
Yeah, it was about $2,000 more than a new one.
Yeah, white poverty was poverty bill. White. I think it's a Mandra colour, isn't it? Anyway,
I'm listening to you, Jared.
I believe,
well, Mrs. I'll send her on to you.
Yeah, me too. We've got your number, mate.
I'm sure.
Good on you, Jonesy.
That's all right. Jared's in his panic room with the invisible doors.
Actually, Harold, you could do us all a favour and just cut Jared off and throw him out the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, okay.
That's a bit harsh. Jeez.
Uh,
I'm going to go buy this and leave now.
That's why Jared is so echoey. He's actually in his bathroom. It's a converted bathroom. That's
a new bathroom.
I could put him in the waiting room. I'm not even sure what that is, but it sounds awkward. No, it's all good.
Very dodgy.
Actually, one thing one controversial rumor that's gone around is that Tesla might drop the Model 3 altogether.
Oh, yeah. Can see
not
that
going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen.
No, that's definitely a possibility.
Taking them too much money.
That's
There's
like
only one-
Western Power becoming, selling off the grid. That's going to happen.
There's only one reason why it might make sense, and that's if Tesla have worked out that they can produce the Model Y for the same cost as the Model 3, pretty much. And then if they work out that if they delete the Model 3 and simply substitute it for the Model Y, because in many respects, the Model Y is just a slightly taller version of a Model 3. So when you're driving it, it's not going to be a different experience, except for you're sitting a little bit higher. Then they could consolidate the 3 and the Y together and give room for the Model 2, which is the subcompact $25,000 EV. So discuss.
But actually, when you think about it, it does make some sense. And like Harold's saying, because if, let's say, like you said, Harold, let's say both of them cost the same amount of money, and the Model Y's got higher demand than the Model 3, by keeping a Model 3 production line open, you're just costing yourself sales and money. It doesn't make, and you're giving another model that's competitive with the Model 2. You're diluting yourself.
So rather than having 6 variations, which is Model 3 SR Plus long range performance, then Model Y SR Plus long range performance, you could consolidate that into 3 variants, just Model Y SR Plus long range performance. So it's a bit of a strong rumor at the moment. I mean, I don't actually know. I don't recall the source of that rumor, but it sort of can make some sense because, Tesla, you've got 5 colors, that's it, whereas other car manufacturers have got 10 colors. You've got 2 interiors. Yeah. You've got very little choice. It's a little bit like...
You've got three interiors in the S and X.
Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah, true. But in the, let's call it the more affordable range, you've got 2 interiors. And I mean, Henry Ford was famous for the Model T. There was only one model. And in fact, there was only one color. You could have any color you liked as long as it was black. Yeah. So I just wonder whether Tesla might be running the numbers and going, well, if we consolidate the 3 and the Y to just be the Y, then we can, all of the 3 and Y production lines will just become a Y production, will be multiple Y production lines. Shanghai can just do just all Ys, and in fact, Europe already is. So one theory I had in Europe is they might actually, if they don't kill the 3 altogether, they simply might not import 3s and just have the domestic production of Ys in Europe. And they could do that as an experiment to see what the backlash is or...
Isn't Model 3 in Europe the highest selling car?
Yeah. Well, yes, it's a distorted statistic, to be perfectly honest, because Tesla, it's an American company. They live and die on quarterly results. So what they do is they produce all the international versions at the start of the quarter, so they've had enough time to ship towards the end of the quarter. So in the UK, I think in Norway and a few other countries in Europe, And in all of Europe itself, the Model 3 has outperformed all other models in June. But that's because June is the last month of the quarter, and that's when most of the deliveries were. So if you looked at the quarterly turnover, the Model 3 would not have been the most popular car. So that's a bit of a distorted statistic, to be perfectly honest. But getting back to the other thing, Tesla could do the experiment and effectively stop selling 3s in Europe once Berlin is up and running doing Ys. And as Peter said, the Y is more popular than the 3 in the States already. And maybe there is a logic to say, well, if we can actually make the Y even cheaper than the 3, if we combine it and delete the 3, then that's a logical thing to do, given that there'll be an even cheaper variant, which is let's call it the Model 2.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it could be completely wrong. They may decide not to, but there is a logical train of thought that says in hard economics, or if you're part of Tesla's mission of getting as many EVs out there as possible, perhaps it's a logical thing to do.
But
well,
Harold, hold on, sorry. Do you not think it makes a mess of your sexy acronym, though?
Yes. And
that's a good reason not to do it, right?
No. But Elon Musk has already explained in very great detail that it was Ford that took the sexy out of Tesla, because the original Model 3 was actually the Model E, and the symbols were was the letter E, and in that Tesla font is the 3 horizontal stripes, right? Because that was the letter E in the Tesla font. And Ford had registered a Model E decades and decades and decades ago, have never used it in their history produced a Model E, but had threatened to sue the absolute pants off Tesla if they even dared to do that. And I think for whatever reason, Tesla blinked and decided we'll just call it a 3, which is a notional E. But Elon Musk has said several times that it was Ford that took the sexy out of Tesla. So if they did delete the Model 3, I'm sure they'll work out some other model that can bring the E back into sexy cars, because we know we got the S, the 3, the X, the Y, the Cybertruck, the ATV, the Roadster, and the Semi. That spells out sexy cars. Go, Elon.
I guess with the 2, it'd be too sexy, right?
Blow my mind.
Yeah. But it doesn't flow with the cars at the end. See, so
no. Yeah. C is Cybertruck, A is ATV, R is Roadster, and S is Semi. So it's sexy cars.
I mean, they might call it the Model A, because the ATV they could just say, well, it's not really a road vehicle, so they might call the Model 2 a Model A. And then it would be sexy cars.
I think Ford had a Model A, actually.
They can call it the Model U and market it to New Zealand, and it'll be the Soxy cars, bro.
And with all due respect to those New Zealand cousins that are watching this as well, like and subscribe.
Exactly.
What were we going to say?
Oh, we're going international now, are we, Harold?
I've got the...
we were always international there, Pete. Absolutely. I mean,
there you go.
Exactly. And I do recall, Pete, that you were seeking asylum in an interesting language previously. So, hey, I think on that note, it might be a good time to perhaps wind this up. As much as I'd love to kick on and do a double Ben-Hur episode, and actually one week, 1 year, 1 day, 1 month, we'll do a what's it called? It's a talk around the clock.
All nighter.
All night.
early stop out.
We could do a telethon. We could do a Teslathon.
Oh, no.
And live stream it.
Look, the jokes and everything else just goes way downhill after about the second and third hour. I can't imagine what it would be like in the 23rd hour.
Look, I'm
can't even want to imagine.
Look, I think we could combine it with bonfires in rural areas, and we could have God knows what activities.
Jared would be in the sin bin 4 times.
What, can't hear you, Carmen? You got to unmute.
He'd be in the waiting room.
Yes, we could organise a siege at Jared's place, and we could see how resistive his paddock room is. And
that's it. No problem.
During a soccer final, maybe?
Yeah, could be a soccer final. Yes, that's right. We could get quite animated.
Okay.
I've been forced to stay up and watch them.
There you go.
Well, there you go. So,
and we have champagne and cake during.
I'm on my way.
Yes. Well, I'm sure we could have. Oh, well, in fact, I don't have it, but I've actually got two decanters of tequila.
Oh yes, I saw them.
Yes,
I saw them.
It's not full of tequila, but that can always be arranged.
Arranged, yep.
Alrighty. On that note, I think it's probably a good time to wind up.
Yes. Good night, guys.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Good night, everyone.
Awesome. For everyone watching, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and Nigel.
Don't forget the Patreon subscription.
All right. On that note, it's definitely time to go. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
See you party time, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, Ray.